us in their gameplay. Their commentary gets an A. So boys, girls, black, white, brown, and blue. If you're kind and you're respectful too, then we would like to welcome you to Misadventureland.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Misadventureland Game Show. I'm Bobby, and I'm here with Justin.
Hi there.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Fantastic. Excited even.
Excited to be here on YouTube.
Excited to be here on YouTube talking video games with you,
Yes.
my good sir.
Yes, we are live on YouTube. Misadventure.land is the easiest way to get to YouTube right now because we don't have enough subscribers to get a custom URL, but you should head on over there, hit the thumbs up on the video, give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure you can hear you can see everything we do when it happens. We put a big video of a modern video game last week, Justin, and we talked about it and we played it, and the world is just a wonderful, wonderful place. So we want more stuff like that. You should definitely head over to misadventure.land. We're gonna be talking about some video games. We didn't record last week.
We did it.
Because we were both very tired.
It happens.
It was honestly, we just went, I texted Justin and said, I need to bail on tonight. I am extremely tired. And Justin said to me, if you hadn't bailed on me, I was gonna bail on you. So it was kismet. It was meant to happen. But we're back this week, and we have a massive amount of stuff to talk about, because we already had a lot of stuff to talk about last week when we were supposed to record. Now more games, a ton of news, just a lot of stuff to talk about. So we really shouldn't delay too long. We should get into it. Justin, of this grab bag of things we have to talk about, what do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Battlefield.
Battlefield 2042? Is that the game you're talking about?
I'm talking about Battlefield 2042 for the
We should talk about
Xbox
that.
One, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox X and S, PC even.
Mm-hmm. Everything but the Switch, basically.
Everything but the Switch.
Yes.
Although, God help me, what would this thing run like on the Switch?
I would love to see it. I would love to see it.
It runs like absolute dog shit on everything else.
So, why don't we level set, Justin? Because I'm sure people have been listening a lot over the year, have known what our feelings on this. But talk about your excitement level for Battlefield.
Battlefield was one of the most anticipated games of the year for me. I love the Battlefield series. I have been a huge fan since, I'll say, Battlefield 2. Battlefield 3 is really where I cut my teeth, though, on this series. I must have spent 1,000 hours playing Battlefield 3. Every subsequent Battlefield I have put hundreds of hours into, even the ones that I really didn't love, like Battlefield 1. And when I saw that Battlefield 2042 was being announced, I was like super jazzed for it, because it was a return to a more modern time period, even though it's near future. We were getting away from the World War I, World War II era. Mm-hmm. And, I pre-ordered this game back in August. I pre-ordered this and Deathloop at the same time with credit that I got for my anniversary. Mm-hmm. So, sight unseen, I was like, I know I'm playing Battlefield, so let's just get it. Let's just get this purchase over with.
Yeah.
Couple of weeks ago, we played that alpha or beta, as they called it. I can't even remember what they called it.
It was definitely
at
a beta,
the time.
for sure. Yeah, beta.
It was a beta. And we came on that following week and we talked about some of the things that I did not like about what I had played. And a lot of it was because it was like, oh, it's an old build. I'm sure they'll make changes. There was still fun to be had there, but just something didn't feel right.
Right.
And I started getting this little nagging feeling in the back of my head being like, am I trying to convince myself that I was having fun, or was I actually having fun? Fast forward to just this last week, and because Bobby and I are, in that very exclusive Game Pass membership, we have that.
You really have to be able to know somebody to get in there.
I mean, it's a who's who of who's in that club there, but you get to trial the game for 10 hours as being part of EA Play. And so I was like, are we really going to do this? Like, I already know that I'm going to get it. And I'm going to say I'm very glad that we did. Because I'll say out of that 10 hours, you, me, and our friend Andy probably played, I'll say a good
It was
four-ish,
3 to
I'll
4
say.
hours, yeah, for
3 to
sure.
4 hours.
Yeah.
And what I played of that game was enough to make me contact Sony support and be like, I would like to cancel my pre-order.
Yeah.
Uh, it is, Battlefield games don't ever launch in tip-top shape,
Mhm.
to put it in the most friendly terms.
Yeah.
They're usually buggy. They have issues, and over time, much like Ubisoft games, it kind of irons itself out. They get the extra time to do so, and they make it work.
Yeah.
Um, Usually, that's fine because for me, back then there wasn't that much else going on.
Mhm.
Honestly, the way the let's just say it's 4 hours. The 4 hours that we spent with this game was enough to make me be like, "You don't deserve my money right now. There's too many other good video games out
Right.
for me to spend the money on this right now." We'll go over what we saw, the technical issues, our experience of playing it, but just top down, looking at this video game, it is not ready to come out of the oven yet, and it's a shame because they had a window here to like do something really good with this franchise, to really make some like headway in the shooter space, with Call of Duty not being as well received this year, and they just absolutely, in my opinion, fumbled the bag yet again.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we saw. I mean, the Call of Duty numbers that are coming in, right? It seems like it's a soft year for Call of Duty as far as sales. I mean, it'll probably still be the best selling game of the year, and it all comes down to it, right? But it's something like 20 or 30% lower than Black Ops, Cold War, for the new one. So if any year was going to be a year for them to at least try to be somewhat competitive with Call of Duty, it was this year. And I think a lot of people were very excited. I think a lot of people were sitting there going like, okay, like we are. I mean, obviously people are going to buy Call of Duty, but like we are, we're ready for a Battlefield, ready for something a little different, ready for something a little bigger, has a little bit of a different feel and take on it. And I think, you and I talked about a game earlier in the year that we've been playing called The Ascent, right? Where it was a game that we were loving the actual playing of, but all of the technical stuff just kind of burnt us out in the game way before we got anywhere close to finishing it. And this has that problem, except the part where I was playing the game wasn't making me happy either. We had so many problems, like, from the game crashing your Xbox and Andy's Xbox,
Not just crashing. We're not just talking about a hard crash back to the home screen.
Yeah.
The game locked up my Xbox and turned it off.
Yeah.
Like I had to get back up and turn the power back on to my Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah. From stuff like that to just getting into a match, and I mean, again, some of these bugs will get worked out obviously, but like at a moment where I was like got caught in the middle of a downed and upped state, so that I was on the ground. It said I had been rezzed, but I was still on the ground, like with a frozen countdown to my death. But it had taken away the options for me either to skip the countdown or to call for help. So I was just stuck, and I had to quit the match and start over.
I couldn't change my weapons multiple times. I just I could not edit my loadout at all. And so you're stuck in a half-hour match with a gun that you really don't enjoy very much. So I'm just trying to run around and pick up other people's weapons.
Yeah.
The technical issues aside, I mean, and there are many of them.
Yeah.
From just again, like it's simple things as certain maps just in our playtime never working, never being able to get into a match, never loading in, getting stuck with Orbital, which I think is like unanimously the weakest of the maps, which was the beta map.
Yeah.
And just heaps of frustration. The design choices they made around this game are seriously, in my opinion, hampering it. The specialist system is very whatever to me. They've moved away from the classic, support, attacker, healer classes, where you have a very defined role, and it's more anybody can do anything. You get a perk on top of that, though, that a certain role gives out. So, for instance, anybody can heal, but only the healer class can have a heal gun, which can shoot at people. Everyone else is just going to drop supply or healing boxes.
Yeah.
That will give like an area of effect heal. And everybody can revive, but only the meta can revive the fastest.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. And it's kind of like breaking the mold a little bit. Like before, it's just like, okay, I need to have, a repair tool. It's like, okay, well, I know I need to be a support class at that point. And now it feels like a little more scattershot of like, all right, well, how do I want to build this loadout? I'm not exactly sure what I should be doing here. It doesn't really explain the fact that like any class can walk around with a rocket if they want to.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of leaves you to like decide that stuff or figure that stuff out for yourself. I am of the opinion with this game that we've reached a point of diminishing returns with the player count and map size.
Mm-hmm.
I think control 128 players. In theory, you think about it and you're like, that sounds awesome. Like more people, more mayhem, more Battlefield moments. And Battlefield wants you to have those moments, right?
Yeah.
They want you to have the moments where it's like, I was in a helicopter and the helicopter was about to crash and I jumped out of the helicopter as it crashed into a tank. And then as I landed, I popped out my LMG. I went prone. I killed 3 people. And then like another tank ran me over. Like that's a Battlefield moment.
Yeah.
And the game you would think it would have more of those moments. But what I'm finding is that the map sizes are so big that it basically feels like in a lot of areas you're just running from point to point, right?
Yeah.
And for us, when we were playing, I wasn't having any fun because it's like, okay, all right, we need to take C1. That's the closest point to us. It's 500 meters away. There's no vehicles around. We'll run there.
Yeah.
And so as we're running there, it's like, okay, C1 just got capped. All right, let's try and go towards D2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would run another 400 meters and then be like, oh, okay, it got capped, or I just got sniped from somebody 1,000 yards away. So the only way we were having fun was like, okay, let's try and find a hot zone where there's going to be a lot of action and we're just going to park ourselves there.
Right.
And a lot of it was like, all right, no one's been coming to this point. Should we move? And like for a lot of the time, it was like, no, we shouldn't move because eventually someone's going to come here.
Right.
And by the time we leave this place and go somewhere else, this place would be taken over again.
Yeah.
So it was odd the way that we were having to play Conquest. And the way that, like, the shooting design they've kind of changed the way their guns fire. They call it weapon bloom. And there are videos all over YouTube. Their IGN had an article about it. One of the points in that article was, why can't I hit anybody? Why are my shots not hitting? And so they've made it where there's a lot of recoil with these guns, and like shots that you would hit in any other shooter, just completely missing.
Yeah.
And like I had to switch from an assault rifle to an LMG. Now, granted, I do like LMGs.
You do love LMGs.
Just to have the right amount of bullets so I wouldn't run out of ammo and I would actually be able to hit somebody.
Right.
Now, you might be like, well, you just need to get better at the game. Now, look, I'm not going to like say I'm amazing at video games or anything, but if there's something I am good at in video games, it's shooting motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I'm okay at that. And I was struggling big time with these shots.
Yeah.
So like a lot of design choices that I just don't agree with. Now, granted, we didn't get to play any breakthrough, which is like their...
We tried.
Multiple times. That's why my system crashed.
Yeah.
But like Breakthrough, which used to be called Rush, would be maybe, I think, more interesting with that amount of players.
Yes,
because
for sure.
There's only like 2 or 3 points. Like you have one team playing defense, one team playing offense.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen that more.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, like this is probably one of the more disappointing games I can think of in the last couple of years. Because they, like I said, they had this window to come out and be so strong. So many people were so hyped for this game after its announcements. After its announcement at E3, Battlefield 4 started showing up on Steam, like the Steam database again, or like
the Steam charts
with concurrent players. The Steam charts. That's what I was looking for. Where it was like it was having a big comeback because people were really excited to get back into Battlefield. And we experienced that. We jumped in and played Battlefield 5 for like a solid month again.
Yeah.
Just being like, man, I am jonesing for some Battlefield. And this is what we got. It just, this shouldn't have been taken out of the oven yet. Obviously, you knew that it was going to because of, investors and, they had to get this game out before this quarter ended or, before the holidays. So I'm not saying this game is like done. I've written it off. I will never think about it again. Like I said, Battlefield games tend to eventually iron out most of their issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back and take a look at this thing in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I bet you it'll be a lot of the bugs will be ironed out and maybe they'll make some different choices and we could have a different experience with it. I mean, but it's sad because the most amount of fun I had with it was playing Battlefield 3 in Portal mode.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
I don't feel like spending $70 to play Battlefield 3 again. At the moment.
No, that's the problem is that like Portal is cool. So, and I played a little bit of like, I was waiting for you guys to come on and I was playing a Battlefield Bad Company 2, like match in there. And that was neat. It was a lot of fun. And that was Rush. And it was like, it was on a Battlefield Bad Company map and everything was destructible and it was very manageable and it was fun. And like, for me, I think the idea of just 128 players on its face is not necessarily a bad one, but I feel like the way they've sort of created and dictated the engagements in Battlefield 2042, because the thing we're talking about, because the shooting doesn't feel particularly great. I feel like, the shooting model just feels very strange to me because there are times where the article by the Bloom was like, oh, if you're moving, there's a huge hit penalty. There's a huge aim penalty, right? But I felt like when I was sitting absolutely still and putting sights directly on someone's, the middle of their body, even shots were just missing, with a DMR and like that. And they weren't, and they're, and then they're 30 yards away or 20 yards away, which is like prime DMR, like range, you know what I mean? Like just missing completely.
I mean, what did I say when we were playing? I said, man, it feels like I'm playing PUBG.
Yeah.
And in PUBG, especially on console, it was hard to kill people.
Yeah.
Like you really had to get up in there to get somebody.
Yeah.
And that was where a lot of my success when I was playing was coming from. It was like, all right, I need to get myself in a tight area where I have almost no chance of missing.
Yeah. But that game is much more of on its face a shooting sim than Battlefield is. That game is intentionally like no. There's like bullet drop and wind resist. There's a ton of stuff in that game. And Battlefield is not supposed to be that game. And if it is that game, they don't do a very good job of communicating it to you, right? Because you also can grapple onto a jet and ride it through the sky. So it's the back and forth of it is a little crazy with the whiplash. That kind of tonality, but the problem, it was hard to get into a match sometimes. When we got into matches, it wasn't particularly fun to play them because the shooting didn't feel great and because the maps are large and don't really funnel engagement into certain areas. Like you can have a giant map with a ton of people, but if you have certain like engagement funnels, it makes it enjoyable. But because the maps are so big, sometimes you have to run really, really far to get where you're going to go. And then you die immediately. And like running very far and dying immediately is a tenet, I believe, of the Battlefield games, but double that distance that you usually would run in a Battlefield game and then just die. That's what happens in a game like this. And like, we mentioned Hell Let Loose, on the last time we recorded, and like that game is trying to make you feel right, like a small cog in this like giant machine, right, of war, and it's doing it on purpose. So purposely, you cannot cover the entire map, right? I'm gonna hold down this one section, and this is gonna be my group and my squad, and this is gonna be the trench that I fight in, right? It's the opposite of like a power fantasy, right? Battlefield is pushing the power fantasy and then also doing those kind of like putting a lot of friction in your way in order to fulfill that power fantasy, right? And so it just doesn't feel like the game feels like it's lacking an identity to me. Like it feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of that comes back that Battlefield 5 was highly unsuccessful, right, for them. And which going back and playing Battlefield 5 not that long ago, that game sure looks great in comparison to what 2042 is right now. It feels like just on the base level, the shooting and movement feels great. The movement feels so much better in Battlefield 5 than it does in Battlefield 2042. And I'm sure that Battlefield 2042 looks better than Battlefield 5, but when I was playing it, I was not like, wow, this is like, look at this. Like, only a couple, like when the tornadoes come out or something, then there's like crazy scale happening, and you're like, wow, look at this. But those are more like, I also don't feel like the tornadoes and something like that add any sort of like functional, like fun to the map. They just become a thing you're running away from. After the first time you get sucked up in, when you're like, holy shit, I didn't die. Now I'm like flying around, I can parachute down. Like once you do that, or you fly a jet into it, a helicopter it once or twice, it doesn't have the same, you know, verve that it did the first time you did it. And, you know, I would have much rather them gone down the road of like, you know, you can destroy like every wall, every building with the, you know, if the Orient is strong enough, you can take it down, sort of thing, over those sort of like big set piece things like that, because that stuff in Battlefield I love. Like obviously easier in something like Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5 because you're dealing with like old small buildings, you know, so you don't deal with like on like a skyscraper falling down. But like, you know, the feeling of like, oh, they went into this building, but doesn't, if I start blowing up those walls, it's not gonna matter. Eventually it's just gonna fall down. You know, like I love that stuff in Battlefield, and I love the way that the maps change over time in Battlefield, where you do all this stuff, and slowly but surely the map like just flattens out, you know, at a certain point, because you're destroying everything, and like that doesn't exist, you know, here in those ways. And so it doesn't have it's like you said, Justin, it's so big that you don't get that feeling of like, okay, we captured C, let's go to B now, and then we're gonna capture B, now we're gonna go to A. So you don't have that full map feel that you do in other Battlefield games. It doesn't have that, right? It doesn't have that feeling of like that feeling of progression throughout the map like other Battlefield games have. That's been so good. And it's buggy as hell and doesn't feel good. So it's like it's missing all of those things. Look, there are ways they can tweak it. There are things that they can do to make it feel more fun. But you know, but all along the pipeline in this game, there's just hard stops that stop you from playing it. We like Hazard Zone seems like it could be a cool mode, but it takes so long to get into hazard mode, get out of hazard mode, and then back into hazard mode again from match to match. You know, I felt no desire for us to keep going in and trying to get better at it, because you can die in, you know, 30 seconds and be done with the match, and then you spent 4 times as long loading into the match as you did playing in the match. So all that stuff, like, you know, just I think takes away from it being a game that I want to go back to right now and play.
It just needed more time.
It needed more time.
It needed more time, and it needs a couple more passes over for. I mean, especially for the bug stuff. Like the bug stuff will get ironed out.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think they need to make it like a hard look at some of the design choices that they've made. We had a question. We may as well just answer it now from Hugh.
Yeah.
He asks, what are the biggest gameplay issues you have? I think we covered that with Battlefield 42. What fixes would you like to see to make the game enjoyable to you?
Yeah.
You know, portal mode is like, in a way, like their answer for, we had these other modes before, we offered them, but now you can make them. So like, I would much prefer to see, I love Conquest. I would like to see Conquest on smaller maps, you know, with half the player count. Like, all right, give me 60 players, 30 on each side. And I think portal mode allows you to do that.
It does, yeah.
But I just wish that there were, you know, like options for us right there. You want to play Conquest large, you want to play Conquest small. Instead of relying on the community to do that. I would really like them to see them do another pass on the shooting.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel good to play. Like, you come from playing Call of Duty, which we'll get into in a moment.
Yeah.
Where, man, Call of Duty, like we literally played one right after the other. We went from Call of Duty, Battlefield into Call of Duty, and it felt like night and day. Now, look, Battlefield and Call of Duty aren't supposed to feel exactly similar.
No, definitely not.
Battlefield fans don't want that. They don't want that, and I'm not saying that they should. But the feeling of shooting in Call of Duty, I'm not talking about time to kill. I'm not talking about how fast you run around. Just the actual gunfire and gunplay itself just felt better. I aim at a dude. All right, I can handle recoil, and I have a good idea that I'm going to hit him. In Battlefield, I had no idea where any of my shots were going. And
Yeah.
as a, a longtime first-person veteran, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So I would love to see them take another pass at the shooting. And also just like small design choices, how easily I can modify my weapon, how easily I can tell like how many menus I have to dig down to see my weapons, see the modifications I can make to my weapons. Maybe just like, and also explain the specialist classes a little bit better. Like, maybe just like go back to the actual, hey, this guy falls under support, this guy falls under healer, right? And separate those and be like, now you just pick a perk to go with them if you want. But I mean, that's probably way too much of a design change. And a couple of people have said this. It feels like they built this game around Hazard Zone, where the specialists make much more sense.
Yeah.
But some of those specialists just don't make sense in a mode where there's 65 players or 64 players on the other team, and I my grapple is useful in like 2 areas of this map.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing about that, this is one of these things, and Battlefield has always been a little bit obtuse about like the way that they do weapons and like attachments and all that. It never feels like the other shooters out there. But like you have these operators or whatever, which definitely is also them trying to kind of like sort of get into this like Siege, Apex Legends like type of like, we have characters that you can latch onto, that you like the way they look and you customize them. You're not just a random army dude that you dress up in like 7 or 8 different kinds of things, which again, mentioning Call of Duty does the same thing. They have a bunch of operators, but there's nothing tied to them that's like at all like gameplay focused, right? They're just basically like a skin that you wear that you can deck out however you want. My thing about this in Battlefield is that they have the operators, which if they just been like, okay, there's 8 operators and they kind of fall underneath, like you said, Justin, these classes, and they get the perks that go along with these classes, and then you can fill out your weapons however you want to, right? But like there is like 2 levels. There is the operator level, and then they still have a menu that's like class menu. So there's like a medic loadout, an assault loadout, a whatever loadout, and a whatever loadout. You can go into those loadouts, and then you can change anything out of them that you want. So you can go in there. It's not like the medic loadout is like married to a health kit and a whatever. You can go in there and go, no, I don't want the health kit. Give me the the armor box or whatever, the ammo box or whatever. And I just don't understand. And then there's your weapons, right? And then there is like, okay, here's your weapons and your attachments. And I don't understand why they did it that way. Like, just go like, even if they just wanted to go, look, you can create your own like deal. Like we'll have our set like pre-made classes that you can pick from at the beginning when you're still leveling up, or when like, so you're not going in just all iron sights all the time, which is another thing, in this game. It's like, I don't understand how you can put me on a map with 128 people that's the size of an actual city and go, you just use these iron sights on this assault rifle. I don't understand like what that reasoning is. Give me a stock that I can put on and just go. And then the other part of it, so that, and then just go like, okay, have an easy menu that goes like, okay, I'm gonna have this weapon, this weapon, this weapon. I'm gonna have this perk, this perk, this perk. I'm gonna have this equipment, this equipment, like other famous big shooters that we're also gonna talk about. Just do that. And then it'll be so much easier to be able to just go like, okay, I got my loadout, I got the guy I wanna play. Oh, you need me to switch from my medic to my assault? Okay, quick, I'll just do that. Now it takes so long in that modify menu to pick and to change up what you're doing, if
the game lets you.
If the game even lets you do it at this point. So it's like a rat's nest of problems that they have, and it's a shame, right? Because we were very primed for it, and I was very excited about it. I love, the thing I love about Battlefield is like, okay, I'm gonna play the medic, and even if I don't kill a bunch of people, I'm always gonna be there, like behind people, picking people up and rezzing them. And
that was another thing. Oh, that's another one of the things. I play medic in these games. I can't tell you how many times I ran over to somebody and was not allowed to res them.
Yeah, there was a lot
And
of
it wasn't
that.
like they chose not to be resed and just respawned. They are spamming res, and
Yeah.
I am trying, and the game is just not giving me the prompt because it decided to glitch out or whatever. And
Yeah.
just it's it's death by 1,000 cuts with this game.
It is.
So
yeah.
they need to get some band-aids going.
Yeah. I mean, they need, first of all, to fix the technical stuff so that getting in and out of matches isn't a pain. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the biggest things. Just let me get, because if the cycle of getting in and out of matches wasn't as much a pain as it is, you could start to forgive some of the things. Because there are those moments, right, where you're like running down a hill and like there's a truck flying, like racing past you up the hill. A tank is coming over the other hill. A plane falls out of the sky in front of you and blows up and kills something. And and you shoot somebody parachuting out of the sky, and you're like, yeah, this fucking rules. But that's like that amount of like, this feels great is such a small percentage compared to the stuff that feels bad. Unlike Justin, another shooter that came out, a surprise shooter that came out this week on Monday. A game called Halo Infinite. Justin, have you heard of it?
I'm unfamiliar. Please, can you tell me the history of this Halo franchise?
Halo Infinite. We've been hearing rumors over the weekend that it was going to drop at the Xbox 20th anniversary event that happened on Monday, and it did. It dropped, and they're calling it beta up until the December 8th release. But it has all the maps, all the modes in it right now. So it is essentially the full release. I'm sure they will tweak things as they go, like any active, live service game. But, playing it right now, you're playing the full game, right? So, we played some of the beta together.
We did.
I got to play on the weekend where the big team battle stuff going on. And I came away from the big team battle stuff going like, this is fine, but like, I'm not really I didn't have a great time. I thought it played really well, but I didn't have a great time playing it. So when they dropped the thing on Monday, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm excited about it. Don't get me wrong. I love Halo. But I just don't know if like, I just had one big disappointment with Battlefield. Like, what's going to happen now? Like with this, like, it's going to be another shooter that I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll play. I jumped in on Monday for a little bit and played for a couple of hours. I had to go to bed real early because I wake up super early to work on Tuesday. So I didn't even get to play with Justin, but Mark and I got to play a bunch for a couple hours on Monday night. It's probably a small thing to say. I'm probably putting it mildly, that all those fears were put to rest pretty much immediately. It felt great to play. I got to play on a lot of the small maps and play in the more like the 4-on-4 kind of smaller modes, and it really, really clicked for me. But Justin, I want to hear, you were already very excited about it. I can tell Justin's excited about it because Justin just sends me like random like stories and clips about Halo now. Or
at
like,
least
this
I'm not
person,
the one posting them. I'm not posting them to Twitter like some people I know.
This person, no, not even your own clips, just other random clips. And being like, did you hear this? This person also likes Halo. Like, so I know Justin is like super pumped about it. But we playing very much all week. How are you feeling?
I feel fantastic. So I played a lot of the beta when they released it, or the test flights as they were calling them.
Yeah.
And I like big team battle. I like small Halo. I like big Halo. I like Halo in the morning. I like Halo at night. So to play those flights, as somebody who spent thousands of hours playing Halo multiplayer growing up, never really finding a groove with it with 4 and 5. The last time I spent a bunch of time with it was Reach. Playing those flights, I was like, oh my god! Like the easiest thing I could say is it's old Halo but new, and like it's very reductive, but it's also very true.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to explain this to a friend today, our friend Laz, who was like, I keep hearing about this Halo game. My coworker says it's really good. Should I download it? I'm like, well, first of all, you need to find out if your PC can handle it. But if it can, then
Laz's
absolutely.
PC can definitely handle it.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. I mean, it's a couple of years old. It's
Yeah.
more than a couple of years old, but I'm sure it could handle it. I mean,
Yeah.
this thing runs on an OG Xbox One,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um, you know, it and I mentioned this when we played the flights. It feels the way you would imagine Halo feeling in 2021, right? Like
Mhm.
if you took modern sensibilities and just pushed it into a Halo game and left it Halo, because it's not like Halo hasn't tried to update itself. It
No,
tried
it
real
has.
hard to update itself around Halo 4, and what you got was a kind of Call of Duty clone, which
Yeah.
just like Battlefield players don't want the game to be like Call of Duty, Halo players don't want that either.
No.
And so Halo 4 was not very well received, its multiplayer. And I was anxious to see how this would come out, and it feels great. Um, the time to kill in Halo is always going to be its own thing. You see a lot of people on Twitter being like, "Has it always been like this hard to kill people?"
Yeah.
It feels like I'm shooting a guy forever before he dies, but it's about breaking that shield and then getting in there and finishing with a melee or switching to a pistol. So yeah, it's I think it's special.
Yeah.
I think it's the question of this podcast is Halo the best shooter of the year, and I think unequivocally yes. Out of everything we've played, I think it's the best, and it's a lot of things, right? It's in most games, it's when you have like a Slayer or something or a team deathmatch. It's like who can go out and just kill the other fools the fastest.
Right.
In Halo, especially on these tight 4v4 maps, which I have to say I find all the maps to be really well designed. So like, it's not something you think about a lot with first person shooters. What's the map design like? But instantly what's a good map and what's a bad map. Like you play a map sometimes and you're just like, oh, that was fine. And you play a really good one, you're like, that flowed real nicely. Like there are obvious choke points. There are, there's multiple good spots for battles to be happening, multiple good spots to hold up for defense in like an oddball, or if you're playing capture the flag, like good lanes to be running down for offense, defense, or whatever. And this game does that. But the other thing that I've really noticed with Halo, especially since we've been playing pretty much exclusively in a 4-stack almost all the time, is in these small maps, it is about map control or zone control more than anything else. And sure, other games do that as well, but what this game focuses on is who's got the gravity hammer and who's got the rockets.
Yeah.
And the game will let you know, like, overshield, rockets, cinder shot spawning in 30 seconds, and you know where those locations are going to be. And it is about controlling those power items when they come on the field. If you're able to do that, chances are you're going to be able to win the match.
Right.
And, a lot of, team call outs, team shooting. I love it. I'm so taken with this game. I so far have spent like $20 in the store, getting the battle pass, getting some nice looking armor last night. Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I totally agree. I think what you mentioned before is exactly what the question always gets asked, right? Like when games that have been around as long as Halo continue to be around, especially games that are competitive and have things that are harder to translate over years and years and years, because the way the Halo was designed originally, right, was you couldn't run, like there was no aiming down sights, it was a very slow game, and that's not the way shooters are played anymore, right? So they had to figure out a way to like transition themselves from that to a modern sensibility without feeling like another game. And I think you said they did that in this. Like it does, like this feels like what Halo should probably be in 2021. Because it's still one of the things one of the things I didn't like with the directions that they started going in was like, I don't want, we're talking about Battlefield and their weird loadout system. I don't want to make a loadout in Halo.
Yeah.
I want to go in with the battle rifle, right? And with the pistol and pick up the rocket launcher or the sword or the hammer or whatever, whatever's there, and go in and fight. And put everybody on even playing field right away, and then see how people control the map and control the zones. And so I'm so happy that they decided to go that way with this. There's a lot more weapons around, you know, in the map than in previous Halos, but it's a great like it's a great in between, because I know like I might love, you know, the assault rifle, right? Or like I might love like that weird beam gun that shoots out or whatever, you know. And I know that, but I just gotta find it on the map and get it, you know, and then I can use it, you know, but I'm not gonna go in with it. And I always love that, because like the thing we used to do, like, you know, when I used to play with my buddy and we used to like split screen, you know, Halo 2, is we would just do random loadout. Like we'd just be like, okay, like we're just gonna start this game with this gun and but we're like, and then we're gonna, you know, and then we're gonna go. And so starting everyone with the same gun, I think, is great. You know, the time to kill, it giveth and it taketh away, right? Because unlike Call of Duty or Battlefield, you can't just get the drop on somebody and know you're gonna kill them, right? If you get behind somebody in Call of Duty, you're like, okay, like they're gonna be dead in, you know, half a second. But in Halo, sometimes if not somebody else gets involved, sometimes gun battles can go on for 10, 15, 20 seconds. You're both hopping around like idiots, trying to hide behind pillars, trying to let your shields come back. So like so you really need, if you get a drop on somebody, yeah, you might have the like initial advantage, but if they're better than you, you're probably still gonna lose. You know, so there is a lot of like that going on in the game, and I appreciate that about it. You know, I think like like you said, it's been great to play with 4 people, and that's the thing too. Like not a lot of shooters do 4-on-4 anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a very small team size, and it means that a lot of times you can get a whole group of people that fill out your entire team. And Halo, like, you know, they had Slayer, which is, you know, which is basically their team deathmatch, but there are more objective modes than just straight out like let's kill people modes, right? So you have a team where you're talking, like there are wins we pulled out in some of our matches that we never would have pulled out if we had been with any randos, honestly. You know, it took like 4 of us coordinating to win like a couple like the capture the flag matches and stuff like that.
And it was really nice because, I mean, we've been playing with this particular group of friends for a long time. And I said, like, wow, that was like we've had, like you said, a few really satisfying wins. And I was like, man, that one capture the flag one, we were just getting hosed. I think we were down 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And we came back and won that 3-2. I was like, how did we do that? And he's like, we've been playing together for like 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, we just know, like, how to communicate with each other. And I just thinking about the people who, like us, grew up playing Halo and being with the friends that they played Halo with growing up. Like, it's got to be such a nice return to form for those people to come back and be like, oh yeah, like I remember this. Like this feels great.
Yeah.
In the big team battle stuff, what's nice too is like if you have more friends to play with, more than just 4, it's like, all right, everyone's a hop in a party here. We'll just go into the big team stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the big team stuff is always going to be a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah.
But luckily for us in our group, we have a few chaos makers.
We do have some chaos
which
makers.
Really does, you know, enhance the good times to be had. I think the new mode that they have there, I think it's called Stockpile, where you're grabbing batteries and bringing the batteries back to your base is a good mode, a nice addition there. You know, I know it's early. You know, I think if they had a few more maps, and especially big team battle, it wouldn't be a bad thing, because they have a few. They have, I think, 3 maps, but they all feel kind of samey. Whereas in the smaller maps, there is a couple that have like very distinct flair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to see them add a couple more big team maps as time goes on. I would like to see like maybe just like, hey, look, I'm in the mood to play Slayer tonight. Let's just kill some people.
Yeah.
Because as it is right now, we're jumping in and it's just like, okay, what are we getting? And it's like, I don't like capture the flag, but we've been getting a lot of it. And it's like, all right, if we're getting this, at least let's try and win. And we have been able to do that. Yeah,
I'm getting used to capture the flag. I also it's traditionally never been a mode that I liked in Halo or really any other shooter. So like it's been fun because I've had some really fun matches playing it. So it's been nice to kind of be challenged in that way. I do wish, and maybe it's just a function of like it's so early, so they don't want to separate the player base. They want to let the player base grow and be big enough that it's gonna always sustain it. So you're never waiting for a long time when you're trying to choose a mode. But it's weird because Halo has always given you like an intense amount of control over what kind of modes you want to actually load into and not. And it's just weird that they don't give you that option. I'm sure they will. And there's it's weird because you can click on the modes and there's a custom game with that mode, which we're not going to do that, but like it lets you rate the mode, but so I'm trying to rate the mode, but it actually ends up rating every mode on that particular map that I'm rating. So I can't go I don't love Capture the Flag. It's just how much do you love this map or not? I also don't know if it has anything to do with actually oh, we'll try to give you not this thing. I don't have no idea. Cody says in chat, it feels so good to love playing Halo again. And that's exactly what's so cool about it. Is that, there's never been a bad Halo game, right? But the last two have been, they have not hit the same way that any of the Bungie ones hit, right? And so this is really 343's first time where I feel like people are just extremely excited, who you don't usually see being excited about a Halo game, and that had a lot to do with the making it free to play. Making the multiplayer free to play is going to be huge for them. It's going to bring in a whole audience they don't usually get, especially on PC. And it's and it's a gateway to get people into the campaign and stuff like that too. So
it's picking up the I want to say slack or whatever, that Battlefield or the ball the Battlefield drops, right?
Yeah.
Battlefield had its big chance to come in and make a big impact and be like, we're the best shooter of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be playing us for the next year or whatever. And they fumbled it. We'll get into Call of Duty, but Halo has been okay, no problem. We'll jump in here and do this. That's not to say the game is perfect.
No.
We're talking about modern sensibilities. Let's talk about the Battle Pass.
Yeah,
it's
terrible.
bad.
Yeah, the Battle Pass is terrible.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't play. I love looking good. I do love that, but it's not like I need a Battle Pass for Halo to succeed. It's 2021. That's no longer an option. You have to have a Battle Pass, especially in a free-to-play game. That's where they're going to make their money.
Yeah.
Great. The first night we were playing, it's just strictly completing challenges. Complete this challenge, you get XP. Nothing else got you XP. They've already said that they're looking into that. They've changed it to where one of your daily challenges is play one game. And then once that challenge is over, it's play another game and then play 3 games. And so they're already making it so you have some progress. I think I leveled up, one time in the first couple of hours. And then since then, I've leveled up 3 times. So it's still slow moving.
Yes.
And they said that they're going to make more changes to it to try and, get moving.
Yeah.
Because this Battle Pass is also going to be around until May.
Yeah, which is crazy. Also their thing, right, is the Battle Passes never expire, but you have to choose what Battle Pass you're trying to level up. So it's not like, when season 2 Battle Pass comes out, they just stack on top of each other. You have to pick which one to do or whether or not. Yeah, I mean, the thing is it's great. Playing the game feels great. It feels nice, but I would eventually it's going to be more okay, it'd be nice to have some other sort of positive reinforcement on why you're playing, right? Other than just, it feels good. So yeah, we'll have to see. They talked about pushing new changes. Cody says they might have pushed one today. I know they were talking about they're definitely looking at because a lot of people are complaining hey, look, a lot of your challenges, if I'm not great at certain parts of the game, I'm never gonna level up the Battle Pass. I could play for 800 hours in the first season and not level the Battle Pass up, because of this way these challenges are laid out. And so
Green makes a point in the chat here that I just wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
Because the questioning of why May, right? Why that's a long time away. The game came out 3 weeks early. But also they said that they want to make sure that season 2 is ready to go. And they want to have their team do it in a healthy and productive way, which makes it seem like they're trying to avoid possibly crunch.
Yeah.
And to me, that seems like they're pushing more than just another Battle Pass with skins out. It might be a big content drop where you're getting new modes, new maps, something along those lines.
Well, they've already talked about how Forge and campaign co-op are coming after launch. So my guess would be that would be some of the big stuff for season 2. I hope, one thing I do hope they put in, what was it, Firefight? Is that what their horde mode was called?
Yes. I swear to God, if Firefight was in this game right now, I would be very happy because that seems like it would be a really good time with the way the mechanics of this game work.
Yeah.
I'm definitely down for Firefight.
Yeah. Firefight was that was first in Reach, right? That was where it premiered. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Was it Reach?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Reach.
Okay. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was a heyday for horde modes, and there was that, and then there was the horde mode.
People forget that Firefight was the first horde mode, wasn't it?
I think so. I think it came out before.
Like, and then
Horde.
or did Horde copy Firefight, or the other way around?
I don't remember. I don't know.
ODS. Cody says ODST.
Oh, it was ODST. I was in my brain. I was like, I remember there being a refinement on Firefight for Reach, but I was like, or after Reach, but I was like, I can't be thinking about it too much because I didn't play. It couldn't. I don't know if 4, even if 4, I don't think 4 had it, but like I didn't play any like multiplayer 4, so I wouldn't have done it. ODST, that's what that was. Okay. Firefight ruled. Fire teams in the firefight. All the fires. I feel like Firefight was after Gears of War. It very well could have been. Was Horde mode? Horde mode it wasn't in Gears 1, right? It was Gears 2 that came out with, right? I feel like Gears 2 was where Horde mode came. I'm messing up my video game history. I think Justin's looking up. He has a look on his face like he's looking something up. I could totally be wrong. About that.
Gears 2.
It was Gears 2. Okay. I feel like Gears 2 came out after ODST. But I could be wrong. What are the years that they released?
Gears 2 came out in 2008.
Thinking about where I lived in these times. But I could be wrong.
ODST came out in 2009.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of probably developed pretty concurrently with each other for the most part. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, Halo's great. We're gonna stay in the Microsoft world, Justin. Talk a little bit about Forza Horizon 5, which is a game that you and I both have been playing. And another thing that sort of, I think, kind of snuck up on us. We have a video up on the YouTube channel right now where we play a couple hours of it, and it was our first couple hours with the game, other than like the tutorial. And if not for Halo, we would have been probably playing it all week. So
I do want to get back to it though.
Me too. I definitely want to play more of it because I really was loving it. I am not a big car guy. I've traditionally enjoyed the Horizon games, but never felt like big pulls to keep playing them. And this is the first one that I've really felt like I could just sit here with nobody, like not on my own, not even with you guys in a party, just play and knock out challenges and drive around and feel like fulfilled, and like it's a game that I want to be playing, both with other people and on my own. How do you feel about it, Justin?
It's, the Forza games are always something that I've wanted to get into. And that's not to say I haven't tried. I spent a decent amount of time with Forza 3, Horizon 3 and 4, and I was playing them by myself. So It's not like I like really took the time to learn exactly how to play them that correctly. I've said this before, but I would much rather it be like 10% more arcadey than it is. It's just over the line for me, just a tiny little bit into simulation, even though it is much, much less simmy than Forza Motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely.
That said, since we've all been together and playing it, it was like one of those things where it's like, all right, let's just download this and then see what comes of it, right? And like if we play it for a night, we'll at least got to have, I spent a really nice night with some good looking vehicles and a beautiful terrain or whatever. And man, we really enjoyed when we were making that video. We had a good time. We convinced a couple of friends to download it, and I've been enjoying the hell out of that game.
Yeah,
and not in the way that I think that they would like you to, but I've heard this sentiment before: is the racing is my least favorite part of playing Forza Horizon.
Right.
I love just driving around in the open world and crashing into stuff, doing the speed trap challenges, finding the garages for the cars, and then just doing races with you guys. It's awesome. It's just an awesome video game. It's unbelievably good looking. It's a good looking video game. It plays really great on the Series X. You have, your choice of performance or fidelity. And we're playing on the performance mode. Even with that, getting that 60 frames a second, it still looks gorgeous.
The game does not like Mark's PC. I'll say that.
No,
we tried
it
to play
definitely
with
does
Mark
not
one
like
night.
Mark's PC. He was also had to drive with his keyboard and mouse, which I can't imagine being a good time at all. But I'm kind of shocked on how much fun I was having with it, especially because like racing games aren't my thing. Typically, I always want to dip my toes into them, but that's about it. I'm never going to really play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But just hanging out, shooting the shit, and driving around, doing skill challenges and stuff like that has been enough for me to just be like, all right, awesome. And then like the last time we played was probably about a week ago. It was like right before Halo. I went out and bought 2 of the cars that I personally absolutely love. So I got my Volkswagen R and like an old Subaru STI that like they don't even make anymore, like the hatchback version of that car. And I was just like, okay, now I'm going to just do custom. I'm gonna have somebody customize the engine of this car because I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, oh, cool, this is much faster and handles much better now. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. And so I want to continue playing it.
And I think speaking to what you were saying before about the races being your least favorite part, I think in part they do kind of know that is the type of player who plays these games, because there is a lot of stuff to do on the map, even events that aren't races, or even just like things that you can do to rack up points, like with a skill chain, stuff like that, that have nothing to do with actually racing your car. So I think they know that is an option, and they do a very good job of like, basically wherever you are, there is like 10 things to do, and you can mark them on the map if you want, but just driving around, you're going to hit like, hey, start event here. Oh, here's the thing. Here's a speed trap. Here's the thing here. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I do also really like that, like kind of like story progression thing that they do, like the Horizon Adventures or whatever it is, where there's like 4 different like areas of the map that have 4 different like specialties. Like here's your street racing, here's your off-road racing, here's whatever. And they have like 3 or 4 like missions in them that will take you to like, take you into the volcano, take you through these ruins, take you, and really take you around the map doing like really big, crazy stuff. The game looks like absolutely exceptional. It's amazing, what it looks like. I do agree. Like there are times where I'm like, I just want to, when I move the stick like to the right, I just want it to turn immediately to the right. Like I don't want like the slow build up or like, feel like my tires are slipping or whatever, or God, I picked the wrong car. And like when I hit the accelerator, my freaking tires just spin out and I just start spinning. Like, why is that happening? I don't know anything about cars. So why is this happening? So, the stuff like that, of course I wish like it was a little bit more like, Burnout or whatever, but, it has enough of that silly stuff and you can make enough of your own fun that it's really been like really a treat to play it. Like us doing a little competition on like that ramp on that one, like tarmac or whatever, on that one runway. A lot of fun, I
was gonna say, like, if you want an example of what the game is like when you're playing with a friend or whatever and not doing the racing, even though in that video we did a good amount of racing as well, it's like, there was this giant ramp and we were trying to see who can get the furthest. And it wasn't me because I didn't have a great car.
I definitely like, and I'm interested like now what they do with like the expansions, because in the past they've done pretty interesting expansions. I just haven't cared because I just haven't been, invested in the game, so now I want to see like, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to add some bonkers like Hot Wheels shit again, or whatever? And then they do, wasn't the last expansion for 4 like a Lego thing or something?
Yeah, I was honestly just thinking that. I would love to go back and take a look at that.
Like the Dominator stuff, which we like, I played once without you. Like it's like their battle royale thing. It's just in there. There's so many things in the game, and I'm excited to see more of it, because it's been a lot of fun to play. And until Halo, it was a thing that where I was like, okay, I have like 20 minutes. Like I'm just gonna jump into Forza, and knock some stuff out. And Halo Infinite definitely brought that to a screeching halt, at least for the beginning of this week. We'll see how. I'm sure as like the the fever wears off for the for the new and shiny, the balance will kind of restore a little bit. But
I like Halo a ton. And in other years, I'd be like, I'm just playing Halo. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the thing that's got my attention the most. But there are a couple other games, and we'll get into some of them. But like this maybe being, first and foremost in that category of like, man, I need to remember that I was really enjoying the hell out of Forza, and I want to get back to it. I want to get back to it tonight.
Absolutely. All right. You want to do some more like quick hit stuff, Justin? I know we want to talk a little bit about the other shooter that we've been playing a little bit. If you want to quickly talk about that.
So yeah, we went down the path of picking up our target games again. And
a giant mistake, by the way. We both agreed.
Giant mistake. Listen, if anybody here can just remind us next year not to do the Target deal and just wait 3 more weeks for Black Friday stuff, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Because in this year too, there were a couple of games where it was like, I really want to pick this up, but I'm gonna wait for the Target sale. And if I had probably waited like 2 or 3 more weeks, I could have gotten them. It's probably about $20 to $30 I spent extra. Over, but but at that. I'm not going to get that upset about $30.
No, I'm not. Look, I'm still gonna be able to feed my family. I just like it's also like one of them we haven't even like talked about playing. You know what I mean? Which is only going to keep going down in price in the next couple of months. So that's one of the things.
We will dig into Far Cry 6 eventually.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so we Call of Duty for me was like a no-brainer there. Because even though it was probably the shooter I was interested in the least out of Battlefield, Halo, and Call of Duty, I thought $40 for the brand new Call of Duty game, like that to me that's a no-brainer. I thought I'd spend like a week or two with it, have my fill, play the campaign, and then I'll trade it in for something, right? It doesn't take a lot for me to like a shooter. It really doesn't. Right. I just have to have a good time playing it. And you know what? Call of Duty is, even the ones that aren't as well received, like Vanguard, still a good time. The mechanics are still there. It is still good mechanics and good shooting, and I can have fun with that almost any day of the week. And so that's a lot of what Call of Duty Vanguard is for me right now is, jumping into a match and just shooting some people and completely mindlessly and having fun doing it. And so I am, for that reason, like, it's not the best one of these I've ever played, but it's certainly not the worst. And, I don't love the World War II motif or time period. But in a game like Call of Duty, I don't think it matters as much because a lot of the maps aren't like, where I have to worry about shooting guys off in a distance and I can't have like a 3-time scope on my gun.
Right.
In Battlefield 5, I had issues with it because it was like I just didn't love the way those guns shot at far distances. In Call of Duty, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So to me, it almost doesn't really matter if I'm using guns from current day or in the past because the shooting is so good, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
What I do like about the game is it has like 20 maps at launch.
It has a lot of maps. Yeah.
It has a lot of maps, and I think, again, we talk about in Halo, like, map design. Most of the map design in that game is pretty good. Like, I've enjoyed the matches. There are some really cool-looking maps and some fun ones to play on. So, yeah, we've been enjoying it. At least I have. I haven't touched the campaign yet. I was about to do that the other day and then started playing something else, which I'll talk about in a minute. But, I've, aside from having to relink all of my accounts, which was a nightmare in the last week because, if you ever have a gamer tag, if you ever have accounts linked somewhere and then you give that account to your child because they just took over it and you buy an Xbox and start a new account, it is a hard thing to now get those accounts back, like my Ubisoft account and my Activision account, my EA account linked to this new one. It took forever. Mark makes a point in the chat. I think the requirement of a shooter for Justin is he has to be immediately good at it or it's garbo. I played hundreds of hours of PUBG and was garbage at it the whole time.
And you hated every moment of it.
I didn't hate every moment. I only hated the moments where I couldn't hit anything.
I loved, I mean, not that some of it wasn't recorded, but Andy can attest, there were plenty of nights where it was an uncomfortable situation in that party.
I also was a little hotter than I am now. But yeah, like I mean, it's Call of Duty, and like, I a lot of our friends in the chat right now can attest. Like, you jump in, you just shoot at people. It's a good time. You call in a UAV, you call in some rockets. You all of a sudden are now a man with a flamethrower running around lighting fools on fire.
Yeah.
To me, that's always a good time. And look, am I going to stick with this one for a long time? Probably not. But for me, I get the enjoyment out of Call of Duty. If I play it for a couple of weeks to a month and I have fun with it, that was enough for me. And
yeah,
I briefly want to bring up that Champions Hill mode, which we've played a little bit of. I think it's a really cool mode. I think it's a if there's one takeaway for me from Vanguard, it's that they came up with a really interesting mode. So this mode is duos or trios. You have 12 lives between you and your partner. Let's just say, I'm not sure if they increased the count for trios, but because you and I have only played duos, but if Bobby and I are playing, we share 12 lives. And there are how many teams? Is it 10 teams? I think it's like 10 teams.
No, 12 lives. Teams. 12 lives. I don't know.
12 lives, 10 teams,
maybe
8 teams. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
I can't remember.
So it'll drop you. You drop it kind of like a circle where you can see all the other teams, and you can run up and buy stuff. Right? You could buy, a upgrade for your gun. You could buy armor. You could buy a perk, and then it will take you and another team and drop you into. It's actually really neat. Around that circle is a bunch of very small maps, and it'll drop you in there for 2 minutes against another team. Kill each other and respawn as much as you want in that time frame, while also running around and trying to pick up money. And whoever, it's not like you're going to eliminate that other team in the first encounter.
Right.
But so that 2 minutes may end, and Bobby and I might have 8 lives left, but we killed the other team 6 times. So they have 6 lives left. It'll then immediately load you in against another team. And now it's like, well, how did these people do? Oh, shit, they've got 9 lives left. As you are accumulating that money from killing people and picking up money in the map, you can hit like left on the D-pad or right on the D-pad, and you could upgrade your gun. But you may not want to do that too much, because eventually, if you survive long enough, they're going to throw you back into that circle, and you can now buy better guns. What's also neat is sometimes as teams start getting eliminated, there's nobody left for you to fight, because, it's an odd number of teams. And so you'll end up back in the circle, and now you can walk up the stairs to like the edges of the circle, and you can watch the other teams fighting.
Yeah.
You can't do anything to really interact with them, but you can watch those games play out, which is like a kind of neat thing. I think it's a mode that needs to be in like every Call of Duty moving forward. It's like a really neat thing. There's a bit of strategy to it.
Yeah.
And you have to think about what you're doing. Like in Call of Duty, you're just like, run out and shoot. And here it's like, you could do that if you want, but you might lose a lot of your lives, and this game may be over for you sooner than you think.
Yeah, it's an evolution of what they did. Was it Gunfight? Is that what it was called in Modern Warfare? Like 2-on-2 mode they did. It's like an evolution of that, basically. It's just like a tournament-based version of that. It was a terrible thing for them to put in the first beta, like for the only thing you could play. But it is an interesting mode. I'm having fun with it. The amount of Call of Duty we played in the last couple of years, like I've figured out like how to just be good enough at it where I can enjoy the matches for the most part. Like I rarely have like giant stinker matches, which is nice, and every once in a while I'll go off. But yeah, it's one of those things where like I don't like in 2 years I will not remember that this game was called Call of Duty Vanguard, and you know what I mean. It'll just be it's gonna be forgettable, and not because it's bad, but because there's gonna be 2 more Call of Duty games by the time we get 2 years from now, and like there's just so many of them, and it kind of fades into a mush. But it's been fun to play, for sure. We are gonna speak about just for people listening, we are gonna speak about the Activision stuff in a little bit. So we're not just like glossing over like, hey, we're gonna talk about the shooting game, and we don't give a shit about the other stuff going on. We're gonna talk 100%. About that in a little bit. Mark, I do remember when you played Call of Duty. It was a fun time. It was fun to play Call of Duty with you.
I think one of the things that we've noticed or we've taken account of since we've been playing Call of Duty is the Xbox, for how much I've all of a sudden become just like an Xbox player and have been wrapped up in that ecosystem, is there are a couple of things that the PlayStation just does better, or not even better, I'll say.
Just has them.
It has them. Share play is a thing that you don't really think about. Yeah. Like, it was just like, oh, this is a neat thing to have, without realizing how much you're actually using it.
Yeah.
So what will happen is, like, sometimes like we have our group of friends here, right? And like, they don't own Call of Duty. They're like, I'm not interested in it, and I don't really feel like playing anything tonight, but
Yeah.
I'll jump into a party and chat with you guys, but I would love to watch someone's gameplay.
Yeah.
SharePlay, Sony thought of that with SharePlay, and
Mhm.
they made it so. Xbox doesn't have that.
No.
So you and I are the only ones that have Call of Duty, and like we have friends who will jump in and be like, oh, like can you oh wait, no, you can't share your gameplay. So you've now been running Twitch streams
Yep.
from your old personal account
Yeah.
with just for them to watch,
Uh-huh.
but like you have no volume. Like, so if people have been wondering why Bobby's been streaming with no talking over, no voices, just strict gameplay, it is solely for that reason.
I will say, from going, I have not ever streamed off directly out of the Xbox One, but Xbox Series X. Sorry, before. The interface gives you a crazy amount of control over what you're sending through Twitch. So you can control your bit rate. You can control like the balance of volume between your gameplay, your mic, and your party chat, as well as like. You can plug in a USB camera and put your USB camera wherever you want. Like it's very detailed, which I just like would not have expected. You know what I mean? Obviously we're not using any of that because I'm just really doing it as a SharePlay. But unlike SharePlay, which is like pretty much like instantaneous, like no latency, like it's like a Twitch stream. So it's like there's a couple of seconds. So I'll be like, oh fuck, and Andy will be like, oh, what's gonna happen? And then I'll hear Andy laugh at what happened to me. Like when I'm playing a game.
It's the other thing that I always find funny when you do something really rad and then like 10 seconds later our friends catch up and they're like, oh, that was awesome. That's always my favorite.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So yeah, I mean it's been fun to play it. I think the thing that you played instead of the campaign was unpacking. Justin, is that what it was?
No, I didn't. Unpacking wasn't what I thought of, but I did play and finish Unpacking.
I did as well. I did as well.
Delightful fucking video game.
Game's great. It's like 3 hours long, like delightful. I'll tell people right now, if you were worried that maybe it's gonna get like super like sad or like indie game sad at the end, it does not. It's not like the last Unpacking isn't like your kids packing up like your effects after you die or whatever. It's very much just like, oh, like it's just this person. It starts when they're, I'm guessing they're probably like
8, 9, 10,
something like that. Like pre-teenager, but getting into age where they like have, they have enough stuff. They control some of like their environment, moving into a room, getting their own room, then like going off to college and then their first like house and then moving in with somebody else and then moving in with, their own place and whatever. It's just really, 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 really good. Really great pixel art stuff, like pixel art of like, one of the things Grun brings up in the chat. Did you put the GameCube in the kitchen? The girl has a GameCube that you're unpacking in the game. And apparently some younger people have been putting it in the kitchen because they thought it was like a toaster or something, which is hilarious. But the thing I really like about it is that it does manage to tell sort of a story, like just through the stuff that you're unpacking this person. So like, you start out and you're like, oh, like they have this cute little like, toy or whatever. And then that toy like follows them through like their years of growing up. And you're always every time you unpack that box, that's like one of those rooms, there's that little toy and you got to find a place to put it, It
also does environmental storytelling really well. Like as you're unpacking, you're like, huh. Like you're noticing things, right?
Yeah.
And the things that you're noticing will, give you insight onto, okay, well, where's the next place I moved? And then you see, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes a bunch of sense now. Like, I listened to another podcast where they explicitly just like laid this out, but like the game does a really good job of, like you said, telling a story with no storytelling whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just for you to infer on your own, and it does a really good job of doing that for you.
There's one place that you unpack stuff in that obviously seems like, oh, they're moving in with somebody, and you're unpacking their stuff, and I was like, this relationship's not going to work out. Like these sensibilities do not jive, you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking it as I'm playing it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like this person didn't even make room for my shit in this room. Like, what the fuck? Like, like that kind of feeling while I'm unpacking this other person's stuff, so it's really, and you see them like doing technology and stuff, and you see, they change, and you always have to kind of set up their desk in strange ways, and like, it's like, in this place, I gotta figure out how to put all of this like graphic, obviously like a designer or an artist or something. So like, I gotta figure out how to put this stuff in this like small little cube space. And then as you get into other spaces, there's more room, and it's just, they're like, it's just really delightful, really fun. The music is really nice, and it's good vibes. It'll take you a sitting probably.
The sound of the boxes disappearing.
Yes.
Is, I mean, we could have a category at the end of the year of best video game sound of the year. I think the capture point in Halo, when you take a capture point, the sound of the boxes disappearing, one of the sounds in Returnal, they're all very good sounds, but that box disappearing one might be tops for me.
I don't know, the sound that it makes when the guy in Inscription talks to you.
It's also really fucking good.
It's really good. Also, all the card sounds that happen in Inscription. Everything about Inscription.
Everything about Inscription wins best sound of the year.
Which Justin and I, if we have a little time at the end of the show, we're gonna do a little spoilery talk at the very end of the show, but about that, because Justin finished Inscription.
I did.
He also finished Guardians of the Galaxy, which I also finished since the last time we podcasted. I was close to finishing it the last time we podcasted. I have also finished it. Wonderful game, like great game. Combat is good enough to not be ever. I never felt like frustrated or bored with it, but I also was never like, this is amazing, So like, but it was good enough to get me through to all the story and character stuff, which is immaculate. Like Insomniac Spider-Man level of like good storytelling in this game. So yeah.
I think the combat actually, instead of getting more monotonous as the game goes on, it gets better. I found that it got better because of the extra abilities that you get.
Yeah.
So at the end, I'm just like basically cycling every character's abilities and finding the right ways that they get together. It does get a little bit too combat heavy at the end.
Yeah.
So I could tell I was very close to the ends, because I was like, man, because you had told me that fact that get ready for a lot of combat, and I was like, I have to be right here at the end, because I'm in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
I have to say one thing about that game. It is like a sneaky contender for best looking game of the year.
It's a great looking game. Yeah.
It's a great looking game. I think it maybe has the best facial animation I've seen in any video game ever. Like, really, I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I can't remember another video game where you actually feel the character's emotion in their face. Like
it's like it's almost like Naughty Dog level of facial animation and subtlety going on.
There are parts where I think it may surpass Naughty Dog.
It might, but I'm saying it's on that level of...
Yeah, it's in that stratosphere.
Yeah, for sure.
You look at it and you're like, video games, like other video games don't look this good.
Yeah.
And they do lots of stuff where it's just like you're, out in space and seeing like ridiculous stuff like celestial heads floating around and whatnot.
Yeah.
But again, and I think I had talked about this the last time I mentioned that I was playing it. It's the best depiction probably of these characters ever, maybe. Especially the Gamora stuff and the Rocket stuff.
The Drax stuff is also great.
It's also great, but also, Groot, in the movies, he just says, I am Groot. But you really get a sense of what he's saying in this game. There'll be sadness when he says it. He is laughing when he says it. So you without knowing exactly what he's saying, you infer what he's saying. Whereas in the movies or the comics, it's just like, I am Groot.
Yeah. And you're relying on Rocket or somebody else to really kind of like give you the context of what he's saying. Yeah.
Probably the biggest surprise of the year for me is Guardians.
Yeah, for sure.
I really, really liked it.
Yeah. There was a point and I texted you about this point, but there's all the characters have like these like big revelation moments where you learn like stuff about them, right? About their backstory or about why they are the way they are, or what they're doing, or what like their thing is. Because this game has a focus on like basically like, the possibility to like reverse your greatest mistake. There's like a lot of that like idea in the story of this game. And the Gamora one happens like very late, right? Like almost near the very end of the game. And I literally was like, is a fucking thing about Gamora at the end of this Guardians of the Galaxy game gonna make me cry? Because I started to get like emotional near the end, when she was doing her thing, and I was really surprised. I was like, okay, this is good. It's funny. Like, it's really well written. And then it just kept getting better and these characters never shut up. Like they never stop talking. And there are definitely times where like stuff loops a little bit. I'm like especially during combat, and I'm like, guys, you could just cut those lines out of the game. But anytime they're saying anything unique or specific, like it's all great. And all the side characters that come in, like like Mantis is comes in. She's in the trailer. She's great. Like character of the year, Cosmo the dog, like is in it as well. It's just awesome. If you're a fan of Marvel stuff, if you're a fan of just good storytelling in games, like it is exceptional. And it's so nice because you and I both love Deus Ex Mankind Divided, right? That's right. That's the one that you played, or is it Human Revolution? Which one? I never know which one's first, which one's second. I think Mankind Divided is the one that you played. This is the second one that was on PS4 and Xbox One. This is that team, right? Doing it, and it's just nice to see them, doing another game that is being so well received, and they're not just like the support fill-in studio like they were on like the Tomb Raider game or on Avengers. Like they're able actually doing a thing.
Please, like go if you like comic books and stuff, go pick up Guardians. Like help this team make another one of these, because I would really like to see a sequel to this game. Yeah,
this isn't like it's good in spite of itself thing. It's just really great. Like if this was a game that had been put out, by Microsoft or by Sony, it would sell, 15 million copies and be like on everybody's game of the year. You know what I mean? That's how good it is. So do not sleep on it. And I would say, like, of course, like if you don't want to spend full price on a game, I totally understand that, because there's a ton of games to play and people need to save money. I think it is on sale for like $30 for Black Friday.
It's gonna be 25. It's gonna be $25 at or $30 Black Friday at some places. Please, go pick this game up and just experience this goodness for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I finished it, and I'm a person who like likes to move through games. Like I was like, I'd be fine playing another 10 hours of this game. You know what I mean? Like for the story stuff. So I hope they get to make another one, like you said. What was the game? Oh, what other games, Justin, have you been playing? What game stopped you from playing Call of Duty?
Riders Republic.
Okay, yes.
Which is what I was playing. When you were talking about Forza having like the 20 minutes to jump in and do something, I've been spending those 20 minutes playing Riders Republic. A game which is, to me, the long-awaited sequel to Amped 3, the video game for the Xbox 360. It's something, man. All right, so let's just get this out of the way. The game is fucking obnoxious.
It is.
With all that obnoxious, like extreme sports in your face. You kind of just got to put that to the side. If you're able to put that to the side, there is a really cool game there. And like, granted, that's just all like whatever. That's like, you finished a race, and it's one of like the big races, right? Where it's like going to open up another part of the mountain for you to go to. There'll be some like just obnoxious person talking to you at the end who will say like, I've got something with the munchies, or just like everything's got a rhyme. I can't remember. It was just a ridiculous thing that I wanted to write down and share with you, and I couldn't remember what it was. Throw that out the window. Look, I'm just telling you, you just gotta mute it, leave it by itself. The actual bones of the game are really good. It's like when we were playing Steep, and I was just like, I like this, but I wish it was like 10% crazier. This is that game,
right?
So you have the ability to, you're building a character to go down and do all these extreme sports. So you have snowboarding, skiing, BMX, wingsuit, rocket suit, and then other just like ridiculous challenges where you're on these like crazy vehicles riding around. And you could play that mostly either with solo or with a friend, right? Or with friends. If you have friends, you could challenge them all to a race together. And you will be able to like get XP for doing that. Or you could do it solo, and you could get more XP and stars by yourself, where it'll tell you like score 20,000 points on a single trick, or complete this without falling. All that's great. And it's literally my kryptonite, because I will spend hours on one race being like, I know I could do this a little bit better. If I just do it for the 98th time, I think I can get this grind into this trick, back into a grind, and then do a triple backflip and land. And sometimes it works, and sometimes I'm like, I really need to move on and see something else because it's not happening for me. But that was me in Amps, right? That was like how I played that game. And I think it's just like they literally have a mode where you're not online at all. It's called Zen mode, and I find that describes the game perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
You're just playing by yourself, and what the game does really not like cool is the world is there for you to explore. So you have this rocket suit, which is just like a jetpack, and you could just jump up in the air and fly in a
Right.
moment's notice. And then there are just like not races, but challenge things for you to do in the world. It's like if you land here, it's like if you accept this challenge, you will go down the mountain. It's just get down the mountain in this amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding all that stuff to be really cool. There's like visit this area, and like this is a monument, or like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like just like a place to visit where it's like not like a national park, Bobby. What's the word I'm looking for here? Where it just you land somewhere really pretty and you hit the A button and it like
expands. Is it landmark?
It's a landmark. That's the fucking word I'm looking for here. It's a landmark. Like literally could not think of the word there. And you'll just get XP for doing that. And then every now and again, they'll be like, do you guys want to do a big race together? And it will grab every available player in the map, which I think is like 64, even though there are like about 1,000 AI characters in the map with them.
Yes.
And you will all get together to do a race. And sometimes those races are like these insane you're sitting on a tricycle with a rocket pack on the back.
Yeah.
Or you are BMXing and then you hit a certain threshold and now you're using a wingsuit and now you're snowboarding. And you'll do 3 of those in a row, like 3 heats in a row. And like, you know, everybody gets XP. It's not like you don't get XP even for not finishing, but the guy who comes in first and second and so on will get more.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just like in the way that Forza is like, you know, the races are like my least favorite part about that game. The races in this game are like same type of thing. Like I'm just enjoying riding around on like a BMX or with a snowboard and seeing how many tricks I can pull off in a certain amount of time. And it's one of those games where it's like, you know, it's not going to win game of the year for me, but when I have a free half hour, it's like, let me jump in and like play a couple more matches and, do a couple more trick stunts and see what I can get. And now it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now I've unlocked a new faster BMX or a new faster snowboard or skis. And I've been having a good time with it.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so I think that's it for the games, Justin. It only took us 90 minutes to get through them.
Yes, I think so.
So let's get like the serious shit out of the way first. Then we'll talk about the Game Awards, and then we'll do our last questions, and we'll get out of here. This motherfucker up here, I can't even do it right this way. Over here, people are watching the video. Bobby Kotick from Activision, the Activision CEO. As of this recording, still the Activision CEO. We'll see. We'll see if that holds up. A report from the Wall Street Journal came out this week, revealing that Bobby Kotick knew. Definitely, there's proof that he knew about the years of sexual misconduct allegations that have been going on at the company. In fact, and has really been the one, even though he sort of like tried to take his name off this stuff, been the one sort of pressing some of the more anti-employee messaging that's come out, and the sort of very confrontational messaging come out. That email that got sent around by that former Bush lawyer that everyone thought was very unhinged. Apparently he wrote it. It went through him. I think the guy's name is Dan Bunting, who was the head of Treyarch, who recently got fired. Finally, there is accusation of sexual assault against him that the internal company review basically recommended that he was going to be fired, and Kotick saved him from being fired. There's reports of Kotick himself, sexually harassing employees at Activision himself. There has been reports now, both Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer. Jim Ryan, head of PlayStation, Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, two rather important partners to Activision, have come out and basically decried Kotick's involvement, and without saying so, or basically say, we're reviewing our relationship with Activision at the moment. Which
didn't Phil Spencer just come out and say that?
They both kind of said that.
Okay.
But I'm saying, like, not saying, these are both internal emails, by the way, that went out. These were not external quotes that were given to press from either Jim Ryan or Phil Spencer. They were shared with the press from people inside both companies. But in no uncertain terms, those are corporate speak for threatening to either sever or really scale back relationships, and that would destroy Activision. So I think it is their way of putting pressure on Activision to make a move. We've had members of the board come out and cry and ask for his resignation, as well as 2 other members of the board who were named in this story are being asked to resign. Another story came out that Jen O'Neill, who was a couple months ago when J. Allen Brack was fired from Blizzard, her and Mikey Ybarra were instituted as heads of Blizzard, and because of the allegations against Blizzard and unequal pay and mistreatment of women, and then proceeded to pay Jen O'Neill less money than Mike Ybarra to do exactly the same job.
I don't want to make light of this, but it's almost comical how it's like, don't put your hand in the cookie jar, and then I turn around and you've got both hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah,
it's how it's almost like they want the whole thing to burn. Like, I can't think of anything else. Like, you are in the midst of sexual harassment lawsuits. The state of California is looking into what's going on and your mistreatment of employees. There is an outcry for the pay wage gap to be closed, and you're like, I know what we're gonna do. We'll get 2 heads of a company instead of just one. One of them will be a woman. That'll calm them down. We don't have to pay her as much, though.
Yeah.
You learned nothing.
Yeah. And
light the whole
asked,
place on fire.
There is documentation of her, speaking up about this, and then basically, just shooting her down. As well as a history through our time at the company of her dealing with inappropriate behavior at work. I think when the Blizzard news started coming out, we all expected more and more stuff to come out. There was no way that the Activision side of it wasn't involved in it. There just was no way. Obviously, we're seeing that is not that is the case here. What we now know is that the rot in the company goes all the way through, right? That it is a play, and I'm sure, and people have said this, who have more intimate knowledge of situations across the industry, have said Activision is terrible. This is not the only place in which this stuff happens. It happens nearly at a lot of major companies. We've heard the stories coming out of Ubisoft as well, right? So we know, right, that this stuff permeates the industry in a lot of ways. And I cannot imagine that Bobby Kotick is still the CEO of Activision, come a week or 2 from now. I feel like, I feel like Activision is waiting because they are trying to figure out a way to fire him and there not be a story where they fired him and then also paid him like $200 million to leave, so I don't think Activision wants that story. But bigger than that, and fuck Bobby Kotick and whatever, I don't give a shit about him. Bigger than that is that, 1,000 Activision Blizzard employees walked out this week to protest things after the story, came out. If this doesn't start changing things and the way things are done, there's nothing that's going to, because it is, one of the 3 or 4 biggest companies in video games. There's written proof of all this stuff going down. And it is now shown a light across to other industries, because you see other industries, other unions, other creative unions and agencies getting involved and speaking about it and speaking about support of Activision walkouts and stuff like that. So it's all over the place. But the amount that's come out this week has been dizzying.
And damning.
Yes.
Like, as if there wasn't enough damning things going on there. The stuff that came out this week was just horrific. Like, almost to another level, I will say. Where you know, you have to burn the house. Like, like almost nothing can survive there right now.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
Yeah.
Just awful.
Chris Plant for Polygon wrote an editorial calling for his resignation, calling for Kotick's resignation. And the thing is like the hope, though, the thing that has to happen is Kotick can't just be, axed and then Activision sweep everything else under the rug. I think that's also the fear, right? That they'll use Kotick as, as guilty as he probably is of all this. They'll like, oh, he's gone now. So now, we're going to be able to, like, everything will be fine, and that's obviously not the case. There's rot all over the company. So it needs to be expressed and rooted out. I mean, this means, right, that you're probably not going to see any of that other, that one lawsuit settled, the California lawsuit. I can't imagine in a world in which that happens now. It's going to keep going, and hopefully it reverberates change throughout the industry. The main thing that I feel when I read these stories is I just feel like incredible sadness for the people who have had to endure this shit in basic silence, for years and years and years and years, probably being told from multiple people to shut up, or that they're overreacting, or that, they better stop or they're going to lose their jobs. And, I hope some of this can be vindication for them, but none of that makes up for what they actually had to go through. And it's absolutely terrible. I hope that, for the sake of everyone, that this stuff starts to change, or it starts, when it does happen, it is much faster in the public eye. Because we're finding out about things that happened, a decade ago. When things like I think it was Black Ops 3, when like this when this accusation first came out about the guy from Treyarch. It's like that is too long of a time for this stuff to get unnoticed. It's extremely terrible. And like, I know some people may be thinking like, you guys talked about Call of Duty before, and now you're talking about this, and like, is that hypocritical? And I think like, if you think it's hypocritical, you might not be wrong, but I would say that I think that like, these developers themselves have said, right, that like not buying the stuff that they worked on isn't necessarily the answer, right, to changing things over there, because a lot of times you end up hurting the people who work on the games and whose livelihood, depends on the game selling and then getting their bonuses,
It's like, it's in the same way. I kind of equate it to like, Jeff Bezos sucks. He really does. Mm-hmm. But ignoring Amazon and not buying anything off Amazon isn't going to like make a dent in this man's pocket. Yeah. It's only in the end, like, great, now I can't get the things that I need fast enough because Amazon owns half the planet. And also it means that their quarterly earnings went down by 2%. They're going to lay off 45,000 people. Yeah. If there's anything we know about video game companies, it's they absolutely have no problem being like, your game didn't sell, you're all out of jobs now. Yeah. And exactly. Now, granted, is that going to happen to a Call of Duty team? I don't know. Probably not to Infinity Ward or to Treyarch. No. But Sledgehammer? Yes. Sledgehammer could go. Yeah. It's like, it's a delicate line to walk, right? Like, yeah. Obviously you don't want to support any of this shit. Yeah. But I don't want to punish the people that are making the games. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Yeah. And I think too, like, I think if your stance is, I'm never buying their Activision product again until this stuff gets cleared up, I think that stance is noble. And I think it is, you are doing, it's not wrong. It's not wrong, for sure. Not. And I think it makes me sick, like the whole situation. And I just want to see all of them go down. And, this is the thing we talked about before. We talked about the initial accusation when it came out and the initial lawsuit and everything that happened. These people who work in these companies need to have protection. They need to have unions. They need to be able to go to somebody and say, that doesn't work for Activision, and say, this happened to me, I need something to be done about it. That's the only thing that's ever going to solve this problem. Because at the end of the day, these companies, all they're about in the end is making money, is their bottom line, is keeping shareholders happy.
So if anything, what you're gonna do is gonna change that. What you say is gonna somehow get squashed down. So the story's gonna keep developing. I can't imagine it's the last thing we're gonna hear about it. If the next time we sit down and record a podcast, Bobby Kotick is still the CEO of Activision, I will be extremely shocked. I just can't imagine that is going to be the case. So yeah, fucking sucks. Let's talk about something a little less serious. How do you feel about that, Justin?
All right, let's do it.
Let's talk about the Game Awards. The nominees happened.
I thought you wanted to talk about something a little like more calming and not anger-inducing and rage-inducing.
Do you feel rage about the Game Awards, Justin?
No, because it's a fucking stupid game show. Who gives a shit? Apparently, lots of people
do care, which I think is wild.
People on both sides of the aisle, like caring too much, and then being like, we don't need this in our lives. Like we've advanced past the need for this. It's like, okay, you calm down too. It's a thing for us to like.
Yeah.
Like those of us who like video games like this because you know what? We find out about more video games.
Yeah.
And also we get to see which one of our games wins Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Spoilers, it's whichever one has the highest budget.
Yeah. It's also fun just to be like, I love video games. Here's an entire night that's just about talking about video games, that people also love video games. It's the same reason why I've watched the Oscars every single year since I was probably 10 years old. They are obviously a ton of bullshit, but I love a night where everybody's just talking about fucking movies like that. I love that shit. So that's why I like them. So we're gonna go over some of the categories here. We'll talk about them. You know, I'm not gonna go over all of them because the esports stuff, you and I just have no idea. So we're just gonna sound like fucking idiots if we talk about any of the esports stuff. Most anticipated game is the worst category that's ever existed. We're not gonna go over that one either.
I wanted to go over that one. I don't even know what's in there.
Okay, let's go.
I'm gonna guess Elden Ring is in there.
Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and Starfield.
Elden Ring will win this category.
You think the sequel to the Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild?
Yes, I do.
Or over the PlayStation fanboys voting for one of these two games?
Yeah, didn't Sekiro win Game of the Year?
Yes, but this is purely voted on by fans.
Yeah, there are a lot of Souls fans out there. It's either Zelda or Elden Ring.
Okay. I mean, there are also a lot of Bethesda fans out there, but
that's not the next Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah. By the way, I enjoy that you were saying Elden Wing every time you tried to say Elden Ring.
Elden Ring with an R.
Elden Wing. Best debut indie. What we got? The Artful Escape, The Forgotten City, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, Sable, and Valheim. I've been meaning to play The Artful Escape. It's in my Game Pass library.
It is on my library as well.
Forgotten City rules. I have mixed thoughts about Kenna. Sable,
it's a good debut though.
Yeah,
like these are. I actually like this category.
Yeah,
your first entry as a debut game, and it's a good list.
It is definitely a good list. Let's see here. I don't like that it makes me go do this every time. Let's see. We're gonna skip content creator of the year because we're gonna win that one, Justin.
We're gonna win
that one. If there's anybody commenting anything on chat, you have to let me know because I can't look at chat right now because
I'm looking at chat.
The window that is gonna show chat is what I'm showing right now. Best multiplayer, we got Back 4 Blood, Knockout City, It Takes Two, Monster Hunter Rise, New World, and Valheim. The only one of these games I put significant time into is It Takes Two, and that game is rad.
It is pretty great.
There's that. Okay, I can do that. Okay. Best sports and racing. What are you gonna say?
Oh, they always combine the two.
Yeah.
Best sports and racing. All right. Forza's gonna run away with this.
FIFA, F1, Forza, Hot Wheels, and Riders Republic.
I'm telling you, on Black Friday, I'm looking for Hot Wheels.
Me too.
Is there best story? Is there a best story category?
It is. Wait, that's higher up though. Best sim strategy, Justin's favorite category. Inscriptions in this list though.
What? Okay.
I mean, it's a card game, so I think it fills out the strategy part of it. It's a wild place for it to exist though. Is there best family?
It Takes Two is in here, right?
Yes, it's not a family game. It Takes Two is
It's
not
not a family game.
No.
It is not a family game whatsoever.
Your child will ask you very uncomfortable questions if you play It Takes Two with them. Including things like, why are these parents trying to make their child cry? Mario Party, obviously, Pokemon Snap, Super Mario 3D World, Bowser's Fury, and WarioWare Get It Together. No, notice the synergy between every person in this category except for the It Takes Two. They all have something in common. Best fighting. I don't care about this at all, but Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles. Surprised you haven't watched Demon Slayer, Justin. That's an anime. It's a very popular anime. You're an anime boy.
I am an anime boy.
Guilty Gear
3 animes.
Yeah, Guilty Gear Strive, Melty Blood, Type Lumina. Man, fighting games have wild names sometimes. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl and Virtua Fighter 5. Let's see. Best role playing. Here's one of the categories people are taking umbrage with, that Cyberpunk 2077 is included in this best role playing category. Monster Hunter Rise, Scarlet Nexus, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and Tales of Arise. Also, Cyberpunk is very much the odd man out with the other 4 games that are on this list.
Wild.
It is wild. Best action adventure. Guardians of the Galaxy, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Resident Evil Village being in this category is kind of wild to me.
It's an action game.
It is, and it is kind of an adventure game too. It's just that like the horror aspect of it like overrides that in my brain or whatever, you know.
Alejandro asked a question from chat asking, "What's the cutoff date for these noms?"
The answer is I don't know.
I thought it was November sometime. November.
We are in
11th
November
or something like that.
Yeah, I check. It's I think it is November or late October.
I'm gonna check.
This is a good category, and this is some of my favorite. Literally, these first 3 games on this list are 3 of my favorite games of the year. So good list.
I'm not looking at it yet, but I'm looking.
No, I'm saying like the Guardians, Metroid Dread, and Psychonauts 2 are the first 3 games on this, and the 3 of my favorite games of the year.
November 19th.
Okay.
Games eligible for the Game Awards this year must be available for public consumption on or before November 19th.
Okay, so that's the release date. So people, because the press votes on it, so that explains why Forza made it on some of the lists, because it was out before that cutoff, obviously. See, but best action adventure, best action game. It's a little bit of a weird distinction, you know?
Yeah.
Back 4 Blood, Chivalry 2, Deathloop, Far Cry 6, and Returnal. Like, Deathloop could have been on the other list. You know what I mean? It's just a weird distinction.
It is a weird distinction
between those two. That doesn't really make sense to me. Also, Far Cry 6 it's weird. Best AR VR. I'm interested to see. I didn't think I thought this. Hitman 3, I Expect You to Die 2, Lone Echo 2, Resident Evil 4, Sniper Elite VR. I do want to play that Resident Evil VR game. Oh, innovation in accessibility. Far Cry 6.
I hear Far Cry's
it has a lot of
options are really good.
Forza Horizon 5 has a lot. Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. It does the Southern Guardians is very interesting because you can like tweak like stickiness of aim and all this. It gives you very granular control. Ratchet and Clank, The Veil, Shadow of the Crown. I don't know what The Veil, Shadow of the Crown is. That's not the one that was all like text based, right? I can't. There was one that.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Best community support. This is basically best ongoing game. Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. Which I feel like we're the same nominees
ones last year.
This is last year.
Yeah.
Best mobile game: Fantasian, Genshin Impact, League of Legends, Wild Rift, Marvel, Future Revolution, and Pokemon Unite. I didn't play any of those games. Best indie.
Here we go.
12 minutes.
Probably not a great one, but continue.
Death's Door. Excellent
Good
video game. Inscription.
Very good video game.
Kenna Bridge of Spirits. I know it is an indie game because it's about indie publisher, but it had a lot of Sony support behind it. It just feels like this slot could have gone somewhere else, but it's fine. It is an indie game. And Loop Hero, which is coming to Switch very soon, so I might actually play it. I was gonna wait to play it on the Steam Deck, but that's a story we didn't talk about. That got delayed by a couple of months. Of that. It's like a good, like, I feel like last year's was stronger, or there's been stronger years for the best indie category, just like in the nominees they picked. And it's weird because it's been such a wild year, like, for indies, and a great year for them. They also have best so weird. Now that here's best ongoing game, which is separate from
what was the other category called?
Best community support. Apex
I was wondering.
Legends.
I'm like, all right, okay, continue.
Apex Legends,
Apex
Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, Call of Duty Warzone. Weird, very weird.
Extremely.
Games for Impact, Before Your Eyes, Boyfriend Dungeon, Chicory, A Colorful Tale, Life is Strange, True Colors, and No Longer Home. These are, the description of this is for a thought-provoking game with pro-social meaning or message. I started playing Chicory. I haven't played enough of it to really talk about it, but I started playing it.
I have also started that game.
I can talk about it once I play a little more of it. Best performance. Erica Mori as Alex Chen. She was very good. Giancarlo Esposito as Anton Castillo. Jason Kelly as Colt Vaughn. Maggie Robertson as Lady Dimitrescu. And Oazoma Akaga as Juliana Blake. So 2 from Deathloop.
Give me one of the Deathloop guys.
So think, like, come on. Like, I know he's famous, but come on.
We haven't seen it. I mean, maybe it's a really good performance. We haven't seen it yet.
I'm sure there are better performances. I'll just say that. Best audio design: Deathloop, Forza Horizon 5, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, and Returnal. This is one of those things where it's just like, all these games have good audio design, but it's just like, what are the AAA games that were nominated for everything else? You know, and this is not the fault of the Game Awards. This is put on by the press or whatever. But, like, come on, you could have found an indie game that could have been in here, you know, other than these, like, 5 giant ass games. That's what I will say. You and I talked about a bunch of stuff earlier for sound that could have been in there. Where Inscription? Where is it, Justin? Why isn't it on this list?
It should be on every single
one.
It's
true.
Of these.
Best score and music. Let's see about this one. Artful Escape. I heard it has good music. Cyberpunk 2077, Deathloop, Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy, and Nier Replicant version 0.1.22474487139.
Guardian shouldn't be on here. It's basically just licensed music.
Yes. I haven't heard the music in Artful Escape. I've heard it's very good. It's all about music, so I don't know.
We've actually heard good things about Cyberpunk soundtrack. It's like one of the better things about the game.
Yeah, I mean, but there's like a wild amount of games that could have been here. Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, you said does not belong here. I'm sure the music in Nier Replicant is fucking banging. Like, I just have to guess that it is, because of how good Automata's music is. It's not like I like music. I really love, category, like, music categories, and that's just not a very exciting one. Best art direction: Artful Escape, Deathloop, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I mean, this is a good list. I think, like, for me, even though, I mean, Ratchet is gorgeous, but like the other games in this have so much other, like, unique style to them, that Ratchet doesn't have. So I think Ratchet is more, like, great artists on it are working on it, obviously, but it feels like it's the odd man out in this category that it'll probably end up winning. So, best narrative. Here we go, Justin. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Life is Strange: True Colors, Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy, Psychonauts 2.
I did not know about this one before. I'm glad that Guardians of the Galaxy made it in here.
Yes. I don't know, like, how good the narrative in Deathloop ends up being because I haven't played enough of it. So I can't speak to that. It Takes Two is a wonderful game. It does not belong on this list.
I mean, there were those squirrels with machine guns.
There are great moments in It Takes Two, don't get me wrong. But as an overall narrative, I don't know. These 3 games,
I don't think in this category, I don't think Deathloop belongs either.
Yeah, Life is Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Psychonauts 2 are good for me. Like, I think those belong, but It Takes Two does not belong there, even though I love that game. Best game direction: Again, we're going to see all the same games. We're going to say all the same games. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Returnal, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank. And these aren't bad picks. Obviously, all of them are really good games. There's just a lot of safe picks. You know what I mean? When it comes down to it,
they play this very safe.
Yeah,
extremely safe.
I mean, also because it's voted on by a ton of people, and these are the games that more people play these games than other games. So it ends up, just being there like that. There's always people try to take it, like, get too serious about it, get too angry about it. This is like 1,000 people vote on this, so it's always going to end up being like a big time, like, middle of the road for most people, when it comes down to it. That's why, like, individual game of the year lists, individual stuff like that is where I think the more interesting stuff comes from, because it's individual people or a small group of people in an outlet. Game of the year: Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. I don't think any of these are really a surprise being here. I'm surprised that
I'm surprised Resident Evil's on this list.
You are? I mean, it was very well liked, and it's all over the rest of the list.
It was very, Yeah, I feel like it's not as prevalent. I feel like it's no more prevalent than Returnal was in some of the lists. Like, it showed up in a couple of categories, like Best Action Adventure, but it wasn't anywhere else in. I think it was it anywhere else? I'm not sure.
It was in a few places.
But I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I like that game a lot. I'm just surprised. Like, that's the one that surprised me. I was like, oh, interesting. That one's on there.
Yeah.
All the rest of them are whatever.
It's also
like, obviously going to be there.
It's also Resident
Where's
Evil.
Inscription?
Where's Inscription?
Where's Inscription on the game? Where is the game that's actually going to be Game of the Year at most outlets on this list?
Yeah. But also, like, there's stuff like, like Death's Door and other games that are like, just more interesting picks. And again, it's not like Jeff Keighley is like, this is game of the, he's not doing that, except when a Kojima game comes up, and then he makes sure it's on there.
And he wets himself.
Yeah, he makes sure it's on there. But I think people like getting angry at like the whole, like, the Game Awards, like it's a body that chooses these things, like the Academy of the Game Awards. That's not how it works.
It's not like DICE. Like, if you want the real serious award category for video games, go follow like the DICE Awards, or what's the other one?
Well, there's like the Game Developer Conference Awards and stuff like that as well. I like what I think, though. The reason why I think these are valuable, even when they nominate a bunch of shit that's like, oh, this is safe, is it creates a lot of conversation about games that weren't nominated that should have been there, and that's by a lot of people who a lot of people listen to. So then you're gonna get more people, paying attention to those games because they're being talked about a lot, even if it's, oh, it should have been nominated and it wasn't. So this is why shows like this are good, and this is why the Game Awards is healthy for the industry, because it drums up a lot of talk and chatter about this stuff. Plus, in a couple weeks, we're gonna see a bunch of cool trailers. So
I'm excited about that.
So yeah, those are the two big news stories, Justin, that I wanted to speak about. Do you want to do the rest of our questions?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's go through these.
Okay.
A Luke Goblin asks, if Halo Infinite delivers a banger campaign, do you think it's Game of the Year? I will tell you, if that campaign is very good, that Halo Infinite is going to be very high on my list.
Yes, I think it will. It has a good chance to be in the top 10. It has a good chance to be in the top 10 just on, like, if it's the multiplayer alone. I would say if the campaign is amazing, it will absolutely have a very good chance of being in the top 10, or if not high on the top 10. But have you heard about the game we've mentioned about 700 times on this podcast? It's going to take something like, I don't know, for me, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we'll get into it obviously in a future time, but like,
Greg asks, are you guys having difficulties figuring out what your personal Game of the Year is?
No. And like last year also wasn't hard for me. Last year was Hades. Obviously Hades is an amazing fucking game. But last year the difference was, like, I didn't play as much. I finished like 15, 16, 17 games this year. And so, like, last year I was like, Hades is number one, and probably number one even if I played a ton of games, right? That's what I said. This year I had played a ton of games, and my game that's number one is I can't imagine, like when we go back and we talk about, like, oh, what are the best games of this group of years or whatever, like, it's gonna be in that conversation. So it's like, right now, look, I still have games to knock off my list. I'm not saying it's impossible. We're just coming off like the high of it, so I'm not going to say there's nothing that could do it that I can go back and play. But as of right now, I'm not having trouble with that. No.
Grun asks, do you think any, or do you see any games being delayed from now until March? Now, if you would have asked me this question the day before yesterday, I would have said one of the February games is a good bet to be delayed.
Yeah.
And it was. Saints Row got pushed all the way to the end of August.
Yeah.
Which is a big delay.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't see anything else. I mean, we took a look at the release schedule. After March, it is basically nothing has been announced. But up until March, like, it doesn't really look like anything like that would have to move. I just thought one of those games might want to get out of the most packed February in existence.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Elden Ring, maybe. Could you see Elden Ring slipping 3 weeks or something like that?
They just pushed it a couple of weeks. I don't think they'll push it again. You know, I think if it needed more time, they would have already have pushed it. They would have just said like, okay, it's going to come out in, you know, end of March or whatever. Because why push it from January into the most busy part of the entire release calendar as if we know right now? You know what I mean?
I was just thinking like maybe if they want like another like month to clean up something, like, you know, could it slip from February to the end of March?
No.
Maybe. Dying Light is got its first previews out at all the big outlets. So I think that's gonna lock.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Elden Ring just had like a network test this past weekend, which neither Justin and I got into. That like people were playing like 20-30 hours of, you know what I mean? So it feels like to me that there's no way it moves at this point. Like unless it's just a purely financial reason, I don't think there's gonna be like a creative reason for them to move it. Sony doesn't really. Once Sony locks in release dates, like they've done Horizon now. Like they'll push things when they go like, oh, it'll be out in 2021, and they're like, actually, we're gonna push it. Then they push stuff. Like they're good at they're great at delaying games they never put release dates on. Usually when something's locked in, like Horizon's locked in, they're not gonna move it.
No, Horizon's locked.
We've seen a ton of it too, so like I can't imagine that it won't come out. My honest answer is like, even though it's already been pushed a bunch of times, Dying Light 2 is the only thing that I really have any like thought that it might be pushed.
It might slip.
Maybe to get out of the way of other stuff because it's so crowded.
I don't know what it's. I guess the only thing it could be getting out of the way of is Horizon.
Yeah,
that's it. But that's Dying Light comes first. Dying Light's February 4th. I think Horizon's the 10th, 15th.
Yeah, but people plan out their money a little bit. So it's like, okay, I'm buying Horizon and Elden Ring this month. I don't have the money to buy Dying Light 2. You know, Dying Light is the least like name, the sexy, juicy name
absolutely.
of any of them. So that's the only reason why I think it could slip. I don't think there's a lot other scheduled to come out.
Not really,
before March. Other than that, like, I don't think you see Destiny 2 delay that expansion, you know, at all. That's the other big thing. They just recently put out more like key art and stuff for Sifu or whatever, restating the date. So I don't think that's gonna move out of February. I think Saints Row is probably the only the one domino to fall out of all of this stuff. Like Justin said before, we don't know much else that's coming out next year. We know that Zelda's coming out or supposed to come out. We know that Starfield is coming out later in the year, right?
That's locked.
That's locked.
I mean, that's supposedly locked to 11/11/22.
Yeah. You know, so that's. I mean, Todd Howard said this week that it's in a fully playable state now. You can play it from beginning to end. All the content's there. So it's now just about QA, essentially. So I can't think of anything else like. We're gonna get stuff announced. You know, there will be more stuff to play in January and March than we know about right now. You know, I'm sure there'll be a lot of indie stuff, and there'll probably be stuff from like Nintendo and stuff like that we don't know that's coming out. Like I don't know when that Kirby game is. I don't remember any of the dates they threw on that stuff. But I don't see any of the games we already know about now getting pushed anywhere. I just can't see it happening.
Same.
Because all those games have already been pushed multiple times. Some of them
multiple times.
Yeah. I don't think so.
We have one last question.
Okay.
Do you think Inscription's coming from Andy? Do you think Inscription will come to consoles considering the mechanics of some of the fights? Now, If you would have asked me this question pre-last Friday, before I put the last 5 hours into the game, I was like, no doubt, absolutely, Inscription will come to consoles. Now, without spoiling anything, the game would have to undergo a little bit of a change. Small changes, but it would definitely have to go under a change to come to console. I still think it should.
I think it definitely will. I mean, the thing about the game, even when there is nothing twitchy about, like, there's nothing you need to do instantly in the game, right? Everything you do is basically, no matter how complicated, you have a turn, right? So I think that no matter what we do, like, it can do it. There is mechanics in some of the things that happen that would need to be slightly tweaked, but I still think
there's a way they could do it.
There's a way you can do it, because
it's some writing and maybe a one screen they would have to change.
Yes, but there is even though there is a commonality between, let's say, a PC and a console that would be easily reflected in those two things. So I don't think like it's that huge of a lift, for that one. So yeah, I think it definitely will. I mean, that game will be on Switch before, at first, is my guess. We'll hear an announcement for the Switch version because it is so popular at the moment. So I can't imagine it not coming. So yeah, I definitely think it will come to console for sure. Also, by the way, everybody listening, I've got 5 hours of footage of Justin finishing Inscription from the other night that I got to figure out what I'm going to do with. No camera, but whatever. We can see the game and you can hear the game, which is better than the footage I had before. So, yeah. So I started recording. I was like, oh, this will be over in like 90 minutes.
Unfortunately, I am not the best at Inscription. It was really tough because there is one part of Inscription where I think the game like kind of ramps up into difficulty, and it's a little bit of maybe like RNG luck there. And I just kept hitting a wall there. Yeah. And then once I got past that small hump, the rest of the game went kind of quickly. Yeah. It was just getting over this hump. Before
we talk any more about Inscription, is there any more questions?
No, that was it.
Okay. So, for most people, that's the end of the podcast. I want to talk a little bit swirly about Justin about Inscription before we get out of here. But if anybody hasn't finished Inscription or they care, this is your time to sort of like, nope out and if you care about the ending of Inscription or any of the details. And I would recommend to you, I don't like telling people not to listen to our podcast, but if you have not played Inscription and you have any inkling you might do it, do not listen to what is to come, please.
Even if you don't have an inkling about playing Inscription, I'm telling you to go play Inscription.
Yeah. You can run on anything, like play it. It's amazing game. Just quickly, I'll get all like the business out of the way before we do this part so that people, if they're noping out right now, podcast live on YouTube at 8:00 every Thursday. Misadventure.land is the easy way to get to the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell to know when we go live, and please like the videos. Like, even if you're going to watch for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, hit that like button. It really, really helps with getting attention on everything. So just drop those likes, please. It would really, really help us out. We're really trying to ramp up the YouTube stuff. We've got some stuff in the pipeline coming that we're really excited about. So we want as many people as possible to see that stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at Bobby Shortle. Justin
_says_hey.
Yeah, and that's it for all the business. I'm gonna give you a count of 5, and then we're gonna talk about Inscription spoilers. I'm gonna put it up on the screen that we're talking about Inscription spoilers. So anybody's looking at this thing, they know these guys are talking about Inscription spoilers. And we will see you guys later, whoever's noping out. So thank you very much for hanging out. There probably won't be a podcast next week. That's true, Groom, because it's Thanksgiving. Not next Thursday. Maybe another day. I don't know.
Now I'm going to have a lot of turkey and alcohol on that day.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to see me in front of a camera.
Or maybe you would love it. We'll talk about it. Anyway, we're talking about Inscription. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inscription spoilers. Here we go. So yeah, I watched you finish the game the other night for 5 hours.
Oh, you did. That was an extremely long phone call that didn't feel that long.
It was after 1 a.m. when I went to sleep. When I walked away from the computer, I should say. It was after 1 a.m. From you finishing the game. And yeah, so what an experience, huh? I mean, I got to see you encounter. Well, I didn't get to see you. The one part I didn't get to see you see was I saw you go from Act 1 of the game, which is the thing that is like, you know, the most forward facing of the game that everyone has seen, right? Which is this card game, this creepy card game against this table. It transitions into that like Pokemon-esque like 2D game with an overworld. I saw you that transition to that. I did not see your transition from that back into the third act, which brings you back into like the more one-on-one card battler thing. This time with the robot. But get as into as possible, Justin. As spoiler as possible. How did you feel about that whole journey?
It's maybe one of the best games I've ever played. I'm trying to think how I wrote my Steam review. I said it was a game has too much atmosphere than it knows what to do with. Mm-hmm. Like I
also left the Steam review, by the way. I've never left a Steam review for any game ever. And I left the Steam review for this game.
This is my second one. The first one I ever wrote was for the Oberdin.
Okay.
It's I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it when we talk more about Game of the Year stuff. Yeah. But just the journey that game puts you on. You know, the card game is front and foremost, but also secondary to what's actually happening. And the way that it wraps up, and the ARG that's running, like I got to listen to the Nextlander podcast where they actually got into the ARG stuff, which is the only stuff that I like ever scraped the absolute surface of. It's just insane in the best possible way. I struggled in that 5-hour video where I felt that, yeah, you're in spoiler territory.
Yeah, get out of here if you don't want to hear anything.
We haven't said anything that wild yet, but man, it is something. I really struggled in that third area at the start, and my feelings of it was the only time my feelings about the game took like a slightly negative turn, which was like it's probably going to end up. You know, right now it feels like it's a middle of the pack best of the year game. Like
I have
still
Justin
in the top
recorded
10.
saying this went from Game of the Year to middle of the pack.
Because I was struggling. I was really having a rough time. I could not get over this hump. Even with Bobby's help, it was just like I was running into just bad situations. Mm-hmm. And I was like, the game in previous, acts kind of helps you navigate that, right? Like you're able to like change the scroll cards around to where it was just like, once I first started messing with that, I was like, oh, wow. And I got to the boss of the first act that run.
Yeah.
The game doesn't really do that in the third act. You kind of have to use your brain and get past it. Once you beat the first boss of that third act, it almost flipping fashion where it should start easy and get harder. It starts at its hardest and gets progressively easier.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah,
because the later bosses that you come across are just some of the coolest mechanics I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to have to be thinking that hard about how to beat the boss.
Right. Yeah,
as opposed to just looking and enjoying the spectacle of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think too, I think intentionally, Daniel Mullins, who's the developer of this game, knows that like those boss battles are amazing, but they're most amazing the first time you encounter those like crazy mechanics. And the more times you would have to encounter them, right, you would end up like they just become another thing you had to do in the game. They wouldn't be as special. So, like you said, once you beat that first boss, I think intentionally it's like a snowball rolling downhill. It just keeps giving you, first of all, the distance between the first boss and the second boss, the third boss, the fourth boss is so much shorter than getting to the first boss the first time.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why it's easier. But also you start getting all of these upgrades for your like those empty vessel cards like so fast. They just keep like coming. So your empty vessels are like, much like what happens with the squirrels, if you're playing that certain way in the first act, become like an essential part of your strategy, and not just something you have to throw out because you have nothing else. And I love that. And I think that the third act too is so interesting because it starts layering in the mechanics from the second act, right? That you saw, but now into the other card games. So you start getting the other Scribes card games into that card game with PO3. Is that his name?
Yeah.
PO3, the robot, like the gem system. Like Alejandro asked, did you try to use those gem deck cards?
I hated those cards in Act 2. I hated them. I hated that boss fight in Act 2 so much because I had a really powerful deck, and he just like used that paintbrush to paint over any of my stats and change them all. And I was like, well, this sucks. Like I got through that battle like on the skin of my teeth, and I was like, I hope I never have to worry about that again. Thank God you were with me. Thank God, because I barely understood the mechanics of those gems. But you being there when I fought that battle and having you be like, no, this is what it means. I was like, oh, okay. Like that makes much more sense now.
Yeah.
Game is so good.
Watching Justin play the game though, Justin would put out cards so fast sometimes. You would put out cards you'd be like, I'd be like, well, what about that? And you just throw it on the board. And I'd be like, no, that's not what I was saying. He'd be like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
I had to, especially with these games, I probably need to like slow down.
Yeah.
But I'm like moving at like my brain is moving like 100 miles a minute, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this here and this here and this here, and it's like none of those were anything that you should have done. You shouldn't have done any of those things, and you should feel bad about yourself.
I mean, especially because the systems in the game, right? Like if you make sometimes one mistake can just be the end of the battle because it doesn't take that much damage for you to win or for them to win. It's also the same way that you can win a match like in the first round. But you need to slow down and do some math as the mechanics start getting more and more like dense. And that's the thing that's so interesting about the game is that it is mechanically very dense. Like it has so many different things for the way it starts out so simple, right? It starts out just this card costs blood. You put a card, you have to sacrifice cards to get cards. And they do this much damage and they have this much health and go until you're dealing with, energy and the gem costs and the circuits and, all of this other stuff and cards that do like 3 things at once. And the game just does such a good job of like, onboarding you throughout that process to where you don't even realize how complicated the game has become when you're in it, But if I was describing somebody like those last couple fights that you were having, Justin, where I was like, these vessel cards, they've got gems on them, and the orange gem, if you put it out, like it will increase the amount of health that that this other card has, but only if that card has been imprinted with the magic sockets on it. And also there's these like circuit cards that if they're placed next to each other will buff each other. And that doesn't matter if they have circuits. As long as they're in this zone, they'll get buffed. So if you're able to put a vessel out with a magic buff and also a power buff, you can be doing double buff. There's like a lot of stuff going on at once, and that's on top of the wild ass story shit that they're doing constantly.
I think my favorite moment of the game is when they allowed me to make cards, which I texted to Bobby.
I don't
know if he's able to get those on the screen somehow.
I probably can. Yeah, hold me a second.
But one of the boss battles allows you to, and I mean, we're in full spoiler territory, so hold on, people. But while you're fighting this person, this character is connecting to the internet and is experiencing the wonders of the internet for the first time. And so they will grab a player-made card and throw it your way. What's interesting is if you happen to win the battle while that card is in your hands, if the other person is playing the game at the same time, they just win.
Yeah.
Like the boss concedes to the player that made that card for you. So it allows you to make cards for other people. And it'll be like, all right, hang on, I'm going to try and find a player. And so what Mullins did when he made this was he created a system for while this entire scene is happening, it is actually pinging across Steam to try and find somebody else at the exact same point of the game that you are at, so they could receive these cards from you. And if they win the fight, and with one of my cards, the boss that I was fighting would just concede the battle and be like, "You won," which is insane, insane. But because I guess I was playing at a certain time of night or whatever, or that the initial hit of this game has passed, it couldn't find anybody to make to give the cards to.
Right.
So it just put them back in my deck.
Yeah.
And some of them were ridiculous. Eventually Bobby will bring them up on screen, and it's just incredible. It lets you name them, pick the design of the card, and then what they do. And it was just so good.
Yeah.
And that's before my Steam friends started fighting me.
Yeah.
So it eventually reads your Steam list and will take your friends, your Steam friends, and turn them into playable cards against you. So I had Alejandro, you were there.
Yes.
And my good friend Peach was there, and my good friend Bobby North, an old Hugh and Bobby North.
Yeah.
Both former co-hosts of Talking Games were there attacking me hard.
Yes. They were.
It like that part blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I'm trying to add these right now, Justin. The iPhone.
I should have done this beforehand.
Yeah, the iPhone like image like format, which is now HEIC, is not like compatible with Windows.
Well,
So
if we can't get it this time,
I'm gonna get it. Don't you worry. I'm gonna get it. Don't you worry. I'm gonna get it up.
The other really good boss battle that you fight there is the Archivist.
Oh yeah, the Archivist is great.
Which is like literally digging through your hard drive and making you choose files to, fight with. And if you lose, it says it deletes the file. It doesn't actually delete the file. But if you happen to go into your directory of whatever file you chose, there is a folder there that wasn't there before that says you should delete this and play the game the right way. You said you were going to delete it.
Yeah.
And then it's basically, it's a scale, right? So the scale is what's tipping the battle. Like you hit him, the scale like goes down on his side.
Yeah.
So you're basically choosing file sizes. It's asking like, find your oldest file size. And depending on how old that file size is depending on how many hits he's going to take.
Yeah.
Just like mind-blowing stuff that I really, really enjoyed. Like I've never played anything like this game.
No.
And the amount of stuff that I missed, because now that I've beaten it, I've gone back and been like, what didn't I see? The ways that you can break this game, like the cat card isn't actually infinite. I forget what they call it in the first act, the something child 13. They're not, it seems like they're cards that you could just sacrifice over and over again. They have a limit. The cat has 9 lives. That's it. And if you use all 9 lives of the cat, it transforms into something else.
That's really cool.
It's wild.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Like I looked up a YouTube video, and it was like an hour and a half long video, and I was skipping around it just to see like some of the things that I missed. And that was like one of them. Like a lot of these cards have secondary functions that you have no idea about.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's really neat. That's really, really
we'll get into
neat.
We'll get into more stuff during Game of the Year, but like as far as like an experience, it's one of those things that I think you just have to play. So
this is the best I can do right now because this format's not working. Let's see if it's like I cover my face. There we go. There he is.
Mr. Shoot Boy.
Mr.
He
Shoot
flies,
Boy.
does 4 damage. He's got the thumbs up.
He costs max energy, but he was worth it. And then there is not good.
Not good. Who will instantly die when he's played, but he returns to your hand. He flies, does 3 damage.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And by the end, we we had in your run, we had like an energy creating machine basically, because all of the vessels you're putting down were creating energy, and that's the cool thing in the game that you mentioned. The game letting you break it, and that's what I think is so cool about the game is that it has its like set of rules, and all the times you're like, this is not gonna work. Like, obviously, there's going to be something in the way, like when you fought the moon against in the last puppet, like there's no way they're
Yeah.
gonna let me just kill it instantly. Like there's gonna be some sort of protection against it. But nope, if you have a death touch card and attacks, it kills the thing instantly. You know? And it's because
Andy brings up
so good.
just quickly, Andy brings up the starving people around the fire, and that
Yeah.
he what was it? It was a card that attacked, right? Or like
I think it was the Death Adder. So
yeah.
yeah.
But also if you put down ringworm on that spot, the people would eat the ringworm, and the next time you go to a fire, they all dead.
It's so cool. And Andy was asking, my question I asked was related to the file size fight, and that's what I assumed you were talking about, Andy. But you know, a console has a hard drive, and a console has some real big files on it. You know,
yeah.
So it is extremely possible. It also has small files on it. It has save files, so it has older files on it. You know, I think like I don't know if I probably won't be able to write a file to your drive like it does in this thing or whatever. But
there are some things that they would have to change.
Yeah,
you'd have to
for
change
sure.
a couple of things, but like this game should be. It's such a good game. It should be able to be played everywhere. It should be on phones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. You know, I love that at the end of the game, you see the other two like card systems of the other two scribes, and like I'm sure he had developed all the assets and stuff for those other two scribes, but there are full mechanics, different mechanics for those two other scribes that we never see in the rest of the game.
Not just mechanics, but entire graphic treatments.
Yes.
Especially for the magician guy.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but like it's supposedly based off a Yu-Gi-Oh thing.
Yeah.
Which is like an entire it changes the like at least with the lady, I forget what her name is as well, but like hers was similar to Leshy.
Yes.
Like similar to the battles that you've been doing.
Yeah.
His the magician's guy was so different, it was mind-blowing. There's 3D models of cards attacking each other, and like I was blown away by the amount of detail in this thing. And then honestly, if you start digging into that ARG, there is so much stuff that comes up.
Yeah.
When I was listening to Nextlander, they were like, you know about the Hitler thing, right? And I was like, what?
Yeah. And it's really fascinating too, just to watch other people play it, you know. And my hope, like Mullen said, like, you know, I've had to do very little, like there's been so much less like after release like bug fixing he's had to do. Like generally, you know, he says like it's like all over the place, like, you know, he has to do a lot of patches and fix a lot of stuff, and there hasn't been a lot of that stuff to do. So he's actually working. He said, I'm working on something fun for everybody, like as an update to the game. So some people are maybe positing maybe he's building out the other scribes, or maybe adding some sort of like endless like mode, so you can just play the card game as much as you want, you know, with like different objectives and stuff like that. So which would also be really cool, because I just love playing the game is really fun. Like the card game is really fun.
Yeah, it is.
So I think all that stuff would be really, really neat to play. It's just it's one of those games that is more than the sum of its parts, even though all its parts are also excellent. You know what I mean? It's like the total sum of what it's doing is it ascends it to like another level, but all of the individual parts are all really great. Like if the game had just been that opening thing, like I still would have been like, this is a great game. This is a top 10 game, you know, just that opening card game area. You know, and I think like, you know, and I think like, I'm not, you know, and I'm not like, I think the second area is the one area where for me, just because of the way for my interests, like it is the area where I was most like, okay, I hope this doesn't last like an incredibly long time. You know what I mean? Like
it doesn't.
And it doesn't
fly through that area.
Yeah. Because like I just wasn't enjoying the way the card battling was working the same way, you know. So there, that's like a little bit of a ding against it, I guess. But other than that, like, I like how in the third area, you know, it still has a penalty for dying, but it's not like the first area where you start the entire like run of bosses over, right? It just starts you back from your latest checkpoint, stuff like that. I think it's a really smart game, and yeah, there are apparently a bunch of stuff I didn't even do. Like I never did the thing where the puzzle with the two cards in Leshy's cabin. There's a bunch of puzzles in the robot warehouse place that I didn't ever figure out. you know, I didn't get all the clues from the digital, you know, trader or whatever. So there's like a ton of stuff. Did we just spoil? You stayed around, Greg?
I mean, honestly, knowing what's coming is just like it's 10% of the game, right? Like
It is. No, it is.
Sure, like it's something to experience it for yourself, but the actual seeing it and just like playing the game is like, you know, like you don't want to get spoiled on it, but it honestly doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
not like that the story is like some like mind blowing thing that you can't believe happened, but
Not really. He made dinner. Okay, so he missed
okay.
most of it.
All right, so yeah, you guys, we can't recommend it enough.
No,
That's
definitely
basically the end of it.
definitely not. That's it. So that's description. We'll talk more about game of the year. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about. But we're gonna get out of here now. We've been podcasting. This is like a classic old podcast length that we just did tonight, like 2.5 hours. So we're gonna peace out of here. We're gonna go relax. But thank you everybody who stuck around and watched. Yeah, be good to one another, and we'll see you later. Bye.